Number two, they believe that the modern slaves are not in chain. Nobody chains you again. But modern slaves are in debt. Why? Proverbs 22 verse 7 says, just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is the servant to the lender. So as long as you are owing, you are a servant to that person. You are working for them. The only time you are not their servant is only if you are not paying them interest and you have their money ready and that they ask you to give to them. As long as you don't have that, you are still a servant to your lender. Your lender determines when you go to work. The day you want to sleep, you dare not sleep because the bills and the debts, they are calling to wake you up. Hey, go back to work and work for me. So then, what is debt? I categorize debt into two categories. There are what we call good debts, and there's what we call bad debts. So you will see the good debt. Listen, this is just the generic. It's not a fixed answer for each one, because some of them in the good side can turn to the bad side. By the time I'm going forward, you understand why it's just a generic. Why are these categories are good debt, like mortgage? If you don't have your own house, you will rent a place, right? Except you are living with somebody. So in that case, when you have a mortgage, the advantage of mortgage is that when you pay rent, you are helping your landlord to pay his mortgage, his taxes, and insurance. Yes or no? Because the house you are living in, you rent, the apartment, somebody owns the apartment. And if he borrowed the money to build the apartment, he's not paying from his own pocket. He's collecting money from you, paying the bank, paying everything, and pocketing the remaining. So you are helping him to make money. So when you have mortgages that are reasonable, we are still going to that. But some mortgages are bad debts. But conservatively, if it's within your capacity and within your rent range, mortgage can be a good debt. Education is a good debt when it brings future benefits. If you just go to school, you learn, like, let me give you this illustration. There was a man I met when we were in TDC. You know, I worked in TDC for 2 years when I first came to this country before I started going back to school, and God help us. And I asked the man, he said, school here. I said, what did you study? He said, he studied French in America. Do you want to live, do you want to work with the French embassy? How can you come to America, school in America, and study French? I want to get student loan to study French. That's a bad loan. Do you get my point? So are you seeing now? But I know I have a friend that has a student loan of more than $200,000. Yeah, to his PhD level. But his income is more than $200,000 a year now. Is it a good loan? If he likes, can pay it off in 4 or 5 years. Now I think it's time to get a job. They want to pay him close to $300,000 now. Are you getting my point? He has borrowed money to develop the future. So when you look at the good debt, the outcome justifies borrowing the money. If the outcome does not justify the reason why you want to borrow the money, it's a bad debt. If it's a good debt, if it increases your future earnings, like I've explained about education and mortgage. For instance, I bought my house about 10 years ago. Recently, I was to go to some investment. I was asking that I needed about $1 million. I said, I don't have that kind of money. They said, do you have a house? I said, yes. When they check my house, they see we have more than $300,000 equity on my loan, on my house already. They say, yeah, you have something. I'm telling just on my own now, more than $300,000 equity on the house. And I say, what? Do you get my point now? Now you see it as, if I use it as collateral for what I wanted to do now, which means I'm still earning, though they will collect the money, it's a loan to me, but it's bringing more income in the future. So it's a bad debt if it had nothing or little to your future earnings, or if it erases your future surplus. You know how debt erases your future surplus? Debt is that you get money today, you spend today to pay in future, right? So the money you have not earned, you're already spending it because you have spent the money you have not earned today. That's a bad debt. It's a bad debt if it raises a future surplus. It's a bad debit if it allows you to live beyond your means. You increase your standard of living not because you have the means to, just because you have access to debt. If you increase your standard of living because of access to debt, it's a bad debt. It makes you buy more than you can afford. That's the problem with the credit card. Credit card, you give them, how much is it? $200. Okay, give it to me. Because you are now thinking, you have to, when you want to pay back, is when you now realize, how did I spend such a money? You spent in it because you are not paying with cash. So that is debt for you. I will have asked questions here, but I think if you reason critically, look at the bad one like credit card, cash advance, your vehicle is not a good loan. It's not a good debt. You know why? The day you drive the vehicle out of the dealer shop, it has depreciated by 30%. At least my brother is saying, if I buy a car from you now, if I bring it back next week, what will you tell me? Will I get my money back? No. Do you get my point? And even if you sell your car back after 5 years, they pay you peanuts. That's what they pay you. If you sell your house back after 10 years, you can still get excess. So it depends on how you look at it. It can be bad. And consumer debt, they give you card, Walmart card, so that you can clear their stores and they can get more goods. All those things are not a good debt. Now, because of the time, let's quickly go to the next one. Why do you want to get out of debt? Let me ask that question. Why do you want to get out of debt? Let's reason it together. I won't ask you because of time, but I will critically want you to look at it. Why do you want to get out of debt? What's the motive? If debt is comfortable for you, you know, some people like debt. They don't care. They say, America is owing, so what's my business? I have a guy owing me some money, and then time I have trouble, he say, oh, God, wait, America, they owe money, leave me alone. Some people are comfortable with debt. If you are such a person, this is not for you. But if debt is putting hardship on your finance and your relationship, you have to get out of debt. You know, some people, some home, husband and wife, they could not talk to each other because of money. Why? Because the man is like, we have to pay this, we have to pay this. I'm sorry, you did not bargain that when you are getting married. So if it's putting hardship on your relationship and your finance, you have to get out of debt. If it's keeping you from reaching your goal, your potential, some people cannot advance in life. They can't go to school because they have so much debt to pay. If they want to go to school and they have to leave 6 months to face their practical, I know there's somebody that wants to do nursing and they say he has to leave, he has 6 months to do, what do you do? Is it practical or clinicals? Thank you. He has to drop out because he couldn't leave 6 months to do clinicals. Now he has finished all the classes, but to take time off work to do clinical, he could not. Why? He has bastardized his credit score. He has bastardized the credit card, and he could not get any loan that will sustain for 6 months. Do you see the problem? Now, for you to get out of debt, if you want to get out of debt, why do you want to get out of debt? You need to know the purpose. If you don't know the purpose, you will abuse the process, because we are going to discuss the process today of how to get out of debt and stay out of debt. But if you don't know why you have to get out of debt, you will never understand or implement the process. Because what we are going to discuss going forward is the process of getting out of debt. But if you don't settle this side, if you don't have desire, listen, I'm up here now, standing here. If you are, my brother, come here. I want to give you why motive is important. This is my brother, right? If I say I want to move you up here, right? If you are not ready to move you, will I be able to do that? Let's assume I'm using my effort. Will I? But if you want to move up, what will I do? You just have to put your leg here and I push you and it's up. So if he has a motive to come up here, my effort is less. Get my point now? But if he doesn't have the motive, if I want to force him up, I may get myself down. To pull people down, it takes little effort. to put people up, it takes both efforts. Do you get my point now? So if you don't have the desire, the motive, and you don't know the purpose, I'm sorry, you'll be here, listen to it, and still go back to your square one. I've seen people that I sat down in my office, we discuss, brother, who will clarify, at least people that we work together and we'll discuss and I'll give the analysis. Forget it, they still go back to zero. Because the desire, the motive is not there. Then let's quickly go to the next one. How can you get out of debt? How? Listen, I'm going to give us some key points. This is not all, but it's just the key one that you need to understand. I've discussed this before, I've explained this before, but I just want to bring in another dimension, maybe to make us understand it better. Number one, for you to get out of debt is a must. You must understand your expenses. How much do you spend every month? Your regular expenses, you must have it in your fingertip. Hello? If I ask you how much is your expenses, I'm not saying say it. You be able to tell me this is my expenses and tell me with accuracy. You know the average, I know it might change, your bill might change, maybe electricity bill, but that's, you should be able to know it. If you don't know your expenses, how will you be able to curb your expenses? Now, you must be able to track all your expenses. Tracking your expenses is a must if you want to get out of debt. Then you must understand your income. How much do you earn per month? What is your regular income apart from one-off income? How much? Now, once you understand how much you are making every month, and you understand how much you are spending regularly every month, you will know that you have surplus or deficit. Yes or no? That's where to start from. Because some people just spend, they say, oh, okay, what do we need today? We don't have rice in our home. We don't have beans. Okay, go and buy. As long as you are doing that, you can't get out of debt. It's not a curse, except you are a multi-billionaire. There are money flowing from every angle. Number three, you must prioritize your spending. Once you know your expenses, you know your income, you know your expenses, you must, it's a must, prioritize your spending. How do you do that? There are three spending that we do every time. Your spending falls to three categories. Number one, it might be a need, it might be a want, or it might be a desire. Everything you spend money on falls to that three category. Listen, the most urgent need of man is accommodation, food, right? And clothing. And where you're in America, you have to drive. Or because you're in New York, you don't need a car, but you're using. These are the basic necessity. That's your need. Your need is absolute necessity of life without which you cannot live, survive, or function. And that's what God promised you. My God shall supply your need, not your greed. Hello? So once you prioritize it, then you understand that, okay, these are my needs. That's the basic thing you need to take care of first. Then your want. What is your want? Your want are the choices about the quality of need. For instance, I need a suit, right? I want a designer. Do you see the difference? I need a shoe, but I want Italian shoe or suede. Give me a point. I need a belt, but I want Gucci. Or is it Gucci you call it? Do you see the want now? The want is the quality you put on your need. Your need is not, listen, I need accommodation, but I want to live in Sugarland. If I want accommodation, when I came to this country, I told people I live in Fondren for 2 years. And that house was so cheap that we woke up one day and all the 4 tires were gone of the cars. Yeah, that's the cost. But I stayed there for 2 years until I was able to move to Cook Road before I now moved to where I am now. You get my point. But when I came to this country, I wanted to live in Sugarland, but I could not afford. That's my want, but I need accommodation. My income could afford Fondren. I stay in Fondren. But when I put the quality of my accommodation, I moved to Sugar. Do you get my point now? You have to understand that when you are seeing things, you better see it, is it a need or a want? And I will go to where you can put money on your want. But initially, when you are in debt, all you need to take care of is your want, not your need. Your need go to the second, it go to your need should go to coma when you are in debt. It should go where? Oh, your want, sorry. Your want should go to coma when you are in debt. The only thing that is alive to make you survive is your need. Every other thing should go out until you pay off. Let me ask you a question. How many people has an iPhone here? How many people have Samsung, has iPhones, 11, 12, and stuff, and you still have iPad with it, right? How many of those functions have you used? Those are not even need. Those are not even want. Those are desire. Get my point? Because it's the heating. If you are in debt, your want and your desire should be sleeping. Because your desire is what gives you that will be above quality, because all phones have quality. They perform the same function. But now you want XX, example, which one they brought out now. So there are things coming out every day. And until you look at it critically, you will know there's a want, a need, or a surplus. Now, once you get to that level of identify those three, the next thing is to eliminate avoidable spending. Avoidable spending. That's what I'm talking about. Want and desire must be eliminated. Eliminate consumable habits. I just like to eat out. You will never get out of debt if you are still in debt. It's not a course. Eat in your house, buy your food. I need, all this upgrade. All those things I just want. Regular is okay for you. Then all this impulse purchase, just get to the store. They say 5% off. I need to buy it. Those has to get out of your way where you are in debt until you stabilize yourself. Because of our time, let's quickly go it. Now, see what Benjamin Franklin said. Benjamin Franklin said, beware of expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. Hello? It's not my word. It's one of the great hero of America that said it. Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. You buy this little one, it doesn't matter, it's just $10, it's just $15. It will keep you in debt. Now, let's go to the next one. When can you get out of debt? I have to just rush this one. The listing to get out of debt, that is based on three major issues. Number one, the amount of money, the amount of time it takes to get out of debt is really related to the amount of money you can put towards your debt. Simple. The more money you can pay, the sooner you get out of debt. But you must be reasonable with your timeline. Because unreasonable time will kill your plan and leave you disappointed and unwilling to try again. And then you must be realistic with your goal. Let's give her this example. You want to pay off $15,000 on credit card in 3 years. And you can cut back up to $500 from your expenses. And then you can put that $500 to that debt. In 3 years, you pay it off. That's realistic, right? Because $500 in a year is $6,000. In 3 years, $18,000. I want to pay off $15,000. That's realistic. But if you want to pay off $15,000 in 1 year, and your income is $50K, and you have to pay your mortgage, is that realistic? You just realize that you'll be borrowing to pay. You'll be borrowing to pay, and you'll be going back to it. So you must be realistic in your goal. When you want to get out of debt, you must have a reasonable timeline. And then you must match the two together, the timeline and the amount. That's a plan, but we'll see, get to that place. Why should you get out of debt? Now we are getting to the critical. Why should you get out of debt? Please listen, because I'm going to rush this side. I don't have all the time. Why should you get out of debt? Debt is a serious threat to your financial security. Why? because it keeps you from making the most of your money. People are getting money in this country, but the wastage is too much in this country. Look at your house, how many food you trash because they are no more good. Hello? How many clothes you have not worn, but now it's even out of fashion, especially women. You see, oh, they are, God will help us in Jesus' name. I don't want to go there. What to spend on debt payment could be stashed away for a rainy day, for retirement, for kids' college day. I think our sister will talk more on that. Once you are out of debt, I skip something because I know she will handle that side. Once you're out of debt, be able to do what it takes to become financially secured. Because debt is a slavery that ties you down and not making you to, when you're in slavery, until you get your freedom, you cannot do what you want. When you're in debt, until you pay it off, you cannot do what you want. Financial satisfaction, unless you're out of debt, you will have less money to have things that matters to you. Yes or no? Some people want to buy S-class, but by the time they look at the monthly payment, they say no. And give myself as an example, my 50th birthday, I have one Benz. I have in mind. I want to look at the price, almost $100,000. Yeah. By the time I'm paying 1.5 every month or more on the car note, doesn't make sense. It's not that I can't afford it, but then I was in debt. Listen, as at that time, I could afford 1.5 for car notes. But looking at what I was paying every month, if I had that to eat, it would sink me. So I still have to be using my Sienna. But when the Lord turned the taxes of Zion around, Tesla came out. But what am I trying to say? If you see in debt, you will not be able to use some money for things that matters for you. And listen, if you really want the things that matters for you when you're in debt, those things that you really matter, that matter to you, you will end up going deeper and deeper into debt until you reach your borrowing rope, the end of borrowing rope. So because some people will get at all costs. And by it got to a point, you apply for any loan, they won't approve it again. And you'll be getting at a higher price. I know someone that came to me and said, it's paying 18% interest. How much do you pay? I said, my car, I pay 1.9% interest for 7 years. He said, how come? He says it's a process. And when I got to this country in 2005, and I was to go and do my MBA in HBU, they said I don't have credit, so they could not approve my education, my student loan, and I could not get anybody to sign for me. And I left, I couldn't finish my school because I do not have credit. But today, I could buy anything for less than 2%. Why? It's a process of 15 years. Start your process. Now, why should you get out of debt? It reduces your financial stress. Debt creates extra stress between covering your necessary expenses and paying your debt. Because the problem is that you are having to now, you have expenses, you have money you have already spent that you have to pay now, and you're the one that you have to pay now. Do you see now? But when you're out of debt, you're only facing the current expenses. Then constant stress can lead to serious health issue. Be careful. Getting out of debt can reduce your stress and save your life. So you need that. Then why should you get out of debt? It increases your financial independence. Debt limits your ability to make decisions because about your money. You are not the one making decision of your money when you are in debt. Your lender do. Hello? It's your lenders. They are the one that determine how much you pay, the interest rate you pay, and when you pay. Who determines that? Who? Lender. Who is now determining how you spend your money? And you pay them first, even before you pay God. Because they are taking it from the source. Getting out of debt puts you in a complete control of your money. Now, why should you get out of debt? It increases financial freedom, give you right of ownership. When you have a mortgage or a loan, you don't own your house, you don't own your car, your lender does. It's not yours until you pay off. Getting out of debt means you own the house you live in, the car you drive, and the clothes you wear. Don't be surprised. Some people are wearing clothes on credit. And some are wearing shoes on. God will help our women. Jewelry's on. It is well. You don't have to worry about someone taking your belongings because you couldn't afford the payment. So these are the things that it gives you the right of ownership. It gives you freedom. It gives you joy, peace of mind. Then number 6, it improves your credit score. That's where I'm going. Too much debt, especially credit card debt, will hurt your credit score. When your credit card loan or loan balances are high compared to your credit limit and original loan, your credit score take a hit. And I'll give myself an illustration. Let me tell you, recently before my birthday, somebody was to do some things and I went to bank to I got in credit card to use to the tune of 100,000 plus, and he refused to pay. And the thing dropped my credit score from 830 something to 6 plus. And you know what happened to all my loan then? They began to increase it from 3%, some to 8%, some to 10%. Immediately I saw the danger. I moved all those to my equity, to house equity, straight. And my credit score went back to 8 something. Do you see what I'm talking about? Not that I spent the money. I gave somebody the money to do a project, and he messed the money up, and it hits me hard. But thanks be to God that God was able to help me out. But what am I trying to say? Anytime you are spending so much, you are owing so much debt, it's hitting on your credit score, and it's raising your interest rate. So you are paying more for owing more. So please note that. Why should you get out of debt? It increase future income when you get out of debt. Why? Debt is borrowing from future income. What is debt? You borrow 1,000 today, like I told you of the 100,000 issue that I had a few years back. It's already spent today, right? But you have already, what you are to earn in future, you have already spent in the present. Assuming there is no loan and there's no money, that amount they ask me to be paying every month, then if I'm setting aside to my retirement or student or my child college, I always tell these people, your child gave you 18 years notice that I'm going to college. Don't blame that child that there's no money, go and get loan. It's your failure. Don't put on the child. You know why? If you have a child today, you know in the 18 years time, that child is going to college. So the money you are paying to the bank, if you set it aside, that child will go to college debt free. God will help us in Jesus' name. These are the reasons why do you see why you have to get out of debt? Now, how can you stay out? Listen, there's one thing to get out. There's another thing to stay out. When I was going to Chosen there, you remember this, if I didn't think of it, he said, you know, Jesus said, when a demon is cast out, if you don't do your part to make them stay out, they will do what? They will come back. The same thing is debt. Debt is so enticing, they are like demons. They are looking for where to stay. That's how you see all the mails in your box every day. Come and take this. Come and take it. Take it. 24 no interest. 24 months 0%. They are like demons. And they are so tempting. And the more you take them, the less chance you have to build your future. Now, for you to start off debt, the first step is to build a financial structure. I think our staff will talk more on that because there's something I wanted to talk on this, so I just skip it because I know she will cover that. Build what? Financial structure. You know what Jesus said in Luke chapter 14? He said, who wants to build a house without putting a structure? That's my conclusion of it. Who wants to go to war without putting a military structure? When you lack structure, your building will crash. So listen, there's a structure that is called 50, 30, 20 budget rule. This is not mine. This is Elizabeth Warren, you know, the senator, the professor of economics. That woman, she's the one that came out with that option. That is online. If you want to check, go and check Elizabeth Warren 50-30-20 budget rule. And she explained there how you can build a financial structure. Number one, you must, according to her, not to me now, according to I'm quoting her, 50% of your income, not more than 50% should go to your need. You know, I've explained it, right? She said 30% for your wants and desire and 20% for your savings, which means every time you get money, before you spend a dime, she believes you must have this structure in place. But I want to put it, if you go and read her book, that structure is after they have deducted your tax, not on your gross. And I want to add it after you are paid God, his portion. You are not listening. If your income is 10,000 gross, that is not your disposable income. That's your gross. So if the government takes 20%, which is 2,000, remain how much? 8,000. If your desire is to pay 10%, you take the 10%, which is 1,000, remain what? 7. So out of the 7,000 that remain, that's why you're now planning 50, 30, 20. Don't plan on the gross, you will still be in debt. Do you get my point? That's your disposable. That is the one that is within your disposal that you can use. Don't hide the one you want to give to God a part of it. That's not your own. No. If you don't have a percentage you are portioned to God every month, I don't know how your relationship with God is. It's not worthy of your money, and it's not worthy of your time. It's not worthy of your praise, and it's your Lord and Savior. It's questionable. Then, financial structure helps you to see with clarity and full transparency your financial situation. Be able to know, can 50% take care of my need? Then if 50% cannot take care of your need, you can increase to what? 70%. I have a friend today we were discussing recently, and he told me, he challenged me, he has paid off his mortgage, paid off his car notes, and he has Benz S-Class, he has BMW, and he has Rolls Royce, and he's paid them off. I was talking to him, he said he saved, why? Because he's a contractor, he's a businessman, he has business, his chains of businesses. He's head early to me, he's like a brother, let me say he's an uncle. But he said something I will not forget. He said he had a structure, whatever come into his way, he invests 50% back. Well, he only lived on 50% since he was a single man. And now it has paid off to the extent that as of today, because he called me, he said he need about $50,000 here. He will pay naira. I said, $50,000, where will I get it? He said, what have you been doing? You are there for almost how many years now? You cannot get $50,000. Come back home and let's see why you can survive. They are still suffering there. You know, to him, me not having a cash of $250,000 is a failure with all my years of experience in the market. Do you get where it's coming from? Because he worked on a structure, today he's so free financially that $250,000 is nothing to him. And let me tell you, he started with normal job that you are doing. But he put a structure. He told me the time when he has to live in his in-laws' house because he could not afford to pay rent. But he did not, based on that, he did not even reduce his structure because of that. If you don't have a structure, you cannot build a house. Yes or no? So for you to stay out of debt, you must have a financial structure. If this is the only thing I'm going to say before I close today, please, these are the people that challenge me. I have another friend in London that we started the structure like this back home in Nigeria. When you have we do our job, you know, this is our job. We set aside some amount. After we pay our debt, we are only 10,000 naira. I was 12,500 naira then as a chartered accountant. It was 10,000 naira as auditor. I was still putting money aside. And he got to London. He continued to say today he has about 3 accounting firms in UK. The house he bought in Coast, what they call this new area, it's £400,000. It's not owing anybody any money. But it's not that he got there one day. He built a structure over the period of 20 years. that paid off for him to be out of debt and to be able to do what. Now his children are out of school. He's just traveling all over. He said we should meet in Nigeria. I said, I'm not your level yet. I will get there one day. Do you get my point? The reason I'm shouting on this structure is that if you want to stay out of debt, build I don't know the one that will work for you. Some people, 70 is their need. 20 is on the want and 10% is on the savings. So they work, you have to work on it judiciously, intentionally. Without a structure, you can never stay out of debt. Write it down and write my name behind it. Base your spending on budget, not on your income. Based on that structure. No, some people now come to me. I have less than 1 minute. Can you give 5 minutes more, please? Some people come to me, after they have their tax return. I have somebody that has tax return of close to $20,000. I'm just telling you, and they said, sir, how much does Tesla cost? I want to buy one. Because of $20,000. Listen, and I told the person I've desired car since I was 40. My 40th birthday, I couldn't afford it. My 50th birthday, I couldn't afford it. Say it was my 55th birthday that I was able to afford it. Say 15 years, I said, yes, sir. Please be careful. Don't copy any other person's structure. Don't copy their lifestyle. You don't know their structure. Build your own structure and you will not be able to develop your own life. Number 2, spend less than you make. That's how to sustain your culture. Proverbs 21 verse 20 says, the wise have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they get. Bible call you a fool when you spend all your money that you get. And some even spend about their income. What do we call those ones? If Bible say the people that spend all they get is a fool, how do we call people that they spend what they get? Pay attention to detail. Monitor your bills and expenses closely. Forgetting your payment due date can lead to overdraft and late payment. These are the things that will help to stay out of debt. Then the last stage, know the value of cash. Thank God, Brother Chinedu, I've explained that here on Sunday. Listen, why do you need to know the value of cash? You can easily overspend when you are not paying cash. Yes or no? If you want to stop credit card first and start using cash. And you see how value money will become to you. Because parting with your cash will show you the immediate impact on your wallet. Hello? Then using cash for payment will change your perception of purchasing. Before you buy that thing, you will take a second look. Yes or no? Because you have 100 in your pocket and they say bring $100. I don't have any money there again. But if it's credit card, yeah, charge it. Then ask for help. Ask for lower interest rate. I told you, listen, I do my own 1.9, I will tell you. There was one I got 1.69 to buy a car. I went to my bank, they gave me 2.99. I went to credit union, they gave me 1.99. I went to the dealer. I said, I have 2 offers here. Which one can you beat? They said they give 1.69. Hello? Ask. Bible says ask. Some people zip their mouth and they gave them 18%. Ask forgiveness when you make one late payment. All lender has that option. You fail the first time, they will forgive you. Some don't. They will just be paying. Don't just pay. Ask. Can you waive this thing for me? Then number 3, if you know somebody who has made financial milestone, don't be afraid to ask them how did they do it. After I talked to that guy, I got my own Tesla. He said he will manage his car for now. That's it. But if I told him, don't worry, you can put that down payment, I will pay about $800 every month, $1,000 every month. After the $20,000, he will go for it. But I've not helped him. Learn to say no. Learn to say no to tempting offer. It will keep coming. They will come into your meals. They come in the store. Learn to say no to small expenses. I've explained that before. Learn to say no. Saying no to small expenses can add up to what? To your big savings. I will stop here because of our time. I pray God will interpret our memory and our understanding in Jesus' name. I try to be specific and detailed as I can, but if the question and answer time come, maybe we can be able to address all the area of question. God bless you all.
Thank you very much. That was a very insightful and detailed look into how we can get out of debt. So again, I want to thank you, Pastor Adeni, for sharing with us your expertise. So at this time, like he said, actually, we're going to have a question and answer session. So hang tight, relax. We're going to take a quick 5 minutes break to give us an opportunity to kind of really, get some, breakfast. We have some donuts I can see there, probably coffee or tea, water. So enjoy yourself, refresh. We're going to come back in 5 minutes. Then we'll bring our president, Dikini Dowu, who's actually going to also introduce to us the next financial expert who's also going to take us on another journey. And, I'm sure we all will be blessed and educated today to know how we can be financially free. So let's take a quick 5 minutes. We'll be back. Thank you. Praise the Lord. All right, that's the timer. So we actually have roughly about 10 minutes already. So let's all try to make our way back to our seats. We're going to switch gears now. So again, just for those of you who don't know, this is going on live actually via Zoom. So please, if you're listening, we appreciate you joining in. We're definitely going to have a lot more time for question and answer for our experts, the speakers to answer any question we have. So I want to bring invite our Man of Valor President, Shegun Dawood, to come forward to kind of introduce our next speaker. God bless you as you listen. Thank you.
What's the time now? Please, let's be seated, guys. Let's be seated, please. Good morning, brethren. We've just finished the first session. We're going to have the second and the third section. This person that I'm going to introduce, I got to know her about 10 years ago. And she has been my mentor. She was the one that trained me when it comes to business of finance, most especially insurance. You all know me that I do insurance. She has been in the industry for over 25 years. She has a BSc in business administration, an MBA. She's a licensed insurance broker. She's a licensed financial advisor, and she's also a licensed financial planner. She is one of the top ranked people when you hear the company called World Financial Group. She's the executive vice chairman of World Financial Group. And she has been in the business of helping people. She was the one that brought me in because that time, many of us that are immigrants, we don't understand the system here in America. And when you lack information, you lack everything. She was the one that told me that it's going to be a shame on me one day because nobody knows when the time will come that you will go. And they will start doing GoFundMe. She was the first person to discourage me for that. And I said, I don't have enough money to do all those things. She said, with just $20, I can start something for you. And that's how she was able to build me. And when you go to a time, she said, I need to leave that level. And she took me to the next level. In fact, I can never forget it. Today, everything I have regarding securing I know my wife will be happy that when I'm old, that I'm gone, she's still alive. He has something to hold on. I know she has that confidence. She is the one that gave us all this training. I know you've been seeing me, but whatever I tell you, you know, say, oh, is it not the head of men president? That's what every year, that's what they do. That's why we decided to bring the expert in. I have the pleasure to introduce not only my upline, the chairman, executive chairman of World Financial Group. Please put your hand together for Kimi Lee.
Can everybody hear me? All right. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me here today, Ezekiel. Yes, it is true. I've been with this company for over 25 years. Actually, I'm going on my 27th year this year. Okay. If anybody asked me, I joined when I was 5 years old. But anyways, the reason I got into this industry was actually by accident. You know, my parents came over, I'm Vietnamese, and my family came over in 1975. And both of my parents worked 2 jobs to put us through school, okay? But when it was my turn to go to college, guess what? There was not enough money. because no one taught my family how to prepare for college education. The system in Vietnam is totally different from the system here, okay? And then so I worked 3 jobs to put myself through school. And then my parents, as they were getting older, my dad was an architect, my mother was a loan officer, okay? And as you get older, every year when you go to work, you get inflation raise, right? If that, sometimes 2%, sometimes 3%. So after so many years, my dad became too costly for the company. So they laid him off. And when they laid him off multiple times, we finally looked into his 401k to see if he had enough money to retire. And guess what? He did not. He had enough to last 1 year. You know, if my parents don't have enough money to retire, guess who's the retirement plan? Me and my siblings. That's the Asian way of doing things, right? But if I can barely take care of myself, how am I going to take care of my parents? So that's when I realized that I needed my family, I needed financial education. So that's how I got into this industry 27 years ago. Okay. And I loved everything that Pastor Elijah shared today, because it's absolutely perfect. Okay. It's like the best. We didn't coordinate, but it just actually sets my presentation up today. As you can see right here, this banner right here, it talks about 30 by 30. So at World System Builder, World Financial Group World System Builder, we believe in 30 by 30. We're on a campaign for financial literacy. You see, if the one thing, we all have different background, different, just different things that we are passionate about. But I do think that if we really think about it, the one thing that we can all agree is that people need right now financial education. Okay, that's one common thing that we all can agree on. Right? And so we believe in our financial literacy campaign, and we want to educate 30 million families by the year 2030. Okay. And we're going to do that through Saving Your Future right here. Okay. So by the way, before I get started, we have these books back there. Okay. This is 2 books. The first book is called Saving Your Future, and the second book is a workbook. Okay. Because what we do is, this is about 87 pages, 88 pages. Even if this is not the first financial education book, okay, but it's not the last either, okay? But let me ask you, have you seen other financial education books that are very thick? There's a lot of them out there, right? If you go to the library, you go to the bookstore, there's several sections on finance. Well, let me ask you a question. If you read those books, what good is it if you don't understand what you're doing? You see? And so this is 87 pages roughly, okay? And it's so easy to read. But the reason we want to make sure that you read it is because we want you to apply, okay? Because knowing the information and application is 2 different things. Then we also have workshops, okay? And so this book is our workbook. It's actually workshops where what you learn in here now, you're going to apply it in here, okay? And by the way, this book is $10 for both. Okay. Now, before in the past, we gave these books away. But the problem was this: when we gave it away, no one read it. Okay. They threw it in the backseat of their car. And when I ran into them again, I asked them, "Did you read the book?" "What book?" So now, okay. So it is $10 for this. Okay. It's, nowadays you cannot buy a book that's $10. Is that true? Right? And so here, both of this is $10. It's just the printing cost. Okay, we're not in the bookmaking business. We just want you to get this book and make sure you read and apply. Okay, because it's that important to your future. All right. So today I'm going to talk about building savings and wealth. Okay, this is a series of workshops that we do free. Okay, there's not a lot of things that are free, right? But we actually do these workshops free. We used to do these workshops in my office prior to COVID. I have an office near the Galleria, okay? And prior to COVID, we would offer these workshops in our offices free. But since pandemic, one of the wonderful things that we did was move these workshops online. And so now we have these workshops 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 times a day. And it's absolutely free. Okay, so if you're interested, later on, get with me, and then I can give you the link to register for the workshop. You can go onto the workshops multiple times. Now, I am a financial professional, and the minute somebody meet me, they ask me, what kind of products do you have? That's what they typically ask me, right? But the reality is this: how many of you have some sort of financial products, whether it's an insurance product or an investment product? Through your job, maybe, right? But this is the problem. A lot of people have these products, but they don't know how to make the products work for them. Does that make sense? So what I'm going to teach you is financial concepts. Financial concepts are more important than actual products, because now understanding these financial concepts, you're going to make the product you have be able to work for you. All right. So we're going to get started with understanding building wealth, saving and wealth. Okay. First of all, this is a disclaimer. Okay. I'm not this is in no way, because I am a licensed professional, I have to give you these disclaimers, okay? This workshop is in no way interpreted as accounting, investment, or tax or legal advice, okay? We just want to bring you some financial education to make sure that you're understanding what to do, okay? So because we're on a national campaign for financial literacy. And by the way, when I finish these 2 workshops, you're not going to learn everything today. Okay, but we want to build some financial concepts, basics, so that you can understand how to apply it to your life now. Okay, so financial education isn't an option, it's actually a necessity. Okay, you see, the reality is this. The reality is right now, okay, World System Builder is committed to educating 30 million families by the year 2030, and we want you to be part of this campaign. We want you to really get this information, and we're willing to give it to you free. Like I said, through our workshops 3 times a day, 5 days a week, okay? And so we believe at World System Builder, okay, on a holistic approach in terms of your financial education. Okay, we want to make sure that our workshop is to educate and empower you to become your own money manager. The best person to manage your money is actually you. But the problem is this: if you don't know certain things, it's not going to be you. Does that make sense? So we want to empower you to know some information so that now you can manage your own money. All right. So let's talk about what you're going to be learning. Okay. In this workshop, you're going to identify your goals. You're going to, we're going to have a financial foundation, okay? We're going to teach you how to build that, as well as we're going to teach you what the wealth formula is. How many of you have ever heard, did you know that there's actually a wealth formula? There's actually a wealth formula. I'm going to teach you that today, okay? And so also we want you to comprehend how time and inflation impacts on your assets, okay? So let's talk about the concept of money, okay? Remember, remember back to your first job, okay? The first time you earned your first paycheck, or the first time someone taught you about the value of money. Anybody remember that? Did they tell you coming to America is going to be great, wonderful, and everything, right? But then all of a sudden, when you go and you try to buy something, guess what? You can't afford it. Or let's say when they said that you're going to make a certain amount of money, but they didn't tell you that, here in America, they take a whole bunch of taxes. So by the time you get your paycheck, it's not what you thought it was going to be. Is that true? Right? So that's when you first really understood the concept of money. Does that make sense? Okay. So now, let's talk about what are the most common things that you financially plan for. How about your kids' college education, school education? Okay, either for your kids or for yourself. What about engagement or wedding, right? How about buying a house? How about retirement? These are things that we normally typically plan for. Do you know, what are you planning for? Okay, have you identified that? Have you written that down? Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about setting goals. When we talk about setting goals, if you're saving and building your future solid goals, okay, you're more likely to overspend. How many of us really plan to overspend? Nobody planned that, but somehow it just happens, right? But it doesn't happen one time. It happens all the time, every day, sometimes almost every day. When you say, you know what, I'm just going to go buy a lunch, maybe $10, right? $5, $10. Guess what? You go buy this and that. All of a sudden now it's $20. Is that true? Or how many of you go to Costco? Yeah? You say you're going to run into Costco for a little bit. Two things, I never run out of Costco without spending $200. That's the minimum, okay? And so you see, a lot of us, we overspend. So let's talk about setting goals. When you set goals, there's actually short-term goals, okay, as well as midterm goals and long-term goals. You've got to identify which type of goals you want to set for. Does that make sense? So short-term goals, we're looking at, let's say 1 year, paying off a specific debt or saving for a vacation that you want to go this year. That could be a 1-year goal. Maybe midterm. Midterm is anywhere from 1 to 5 years. That could be paying off your car, paying off some debts, okay? And then long-term is 5 years or more. That's saving for your child's education, pay a down payment for your house or for your retirement, okay? Now, so here, we also have to, when we talk about our goals, at the end of the day, each goal must be paired with an action. You can set all the goals that you want, but if you don't pair it with an action, you know what those goals are? Just wishes. Does that make sense? And so you gotta, what are you doing to achieve your goals? So there's gotta be action behind that. So today I'm gonna teach you how to maybe start some action, okay, that you can do. So at World Financial Group, we do what's called a personal financial strategy. How many of you, it's called a financial checkup. How many of you go and get an annual checkup every year? Yes? Typically the ladies raise their hand. Men rarely get it every year. Okay, one, okay. And somebody here is laughing, maybe that means that you don't. But typically we get a physical every year. Is that true? Let me ask you a question. What if you got a financial checkup every year since you came to the US and started working? Where would your finances be nowadays? You see, if we got a financial checkup every year, you would know whether you're on the right track or not. You would know what you need to tweak or not tweak. Does that make sense? What are the changes you need to make? Okay, so we provide this financial checkup for everybody free of charge. So we identify what they're saving for, okay, whether it's retirement, education, medical expense, elective surgeries, new car, paying off your debt, paying off your wedding and engagement, new home, appliances, birthdays, vacation, investment properties, moving out for the younger kids, right? Or how about even for the ladies, a purse, okay? We teach you how to plan for everything. An anniversary, a road trip, okay? And so here, home improvements, okay? So you've got to make sure that you understand what you're saving for. You also determine how much you need, and you can use several things. There's something called Formula 1020, okay? That's in this book. You see, I can teach you how to save, but the problem is if you don't know how much you need, you're not going to know how to get there. Does that make sense? Okay, so Formula 10 is something very simple. That's in our book. Formula 10 is if you were to, let's say if you need protection. A lot of us don't know how much protection we need. So let's say if your income is $50,000 a year, what you need is multiply that by 10. So Formula 10 is in order for you to have protection, take your income multiplied by 10. Because now if something happens to you, that money is going to help take care of your debt. Replace your income for a couple of years, maybe pay off your mortgage and have enough money to send your kids to college. Those are just the basic necessities. Does that make sense? Formula 20 is to determine how much you need for retirement. You need 20 times your income. Now that was in this book. This book was written in 2015, okay? So times have changed since 2015. Who knew 6 years later that we're gonna live in something called the pandemic? No one knew that, right? So let me share with you, Formula 20. How many of you think you need $1 million for retirement? How many of you think that's too much? Okay, so let me share with you. Most people retire at age 65, okay? And if you need, and we tell them at the very minimum, they need $1 million. You see here, right now, the life expectancy for a woman is until age 88. For a man is 87. By the way, in one of my workshops, a gentleman asked me, Kimmy, do you know why women live longer than men? How many of you want to know why? I asked, why? And he said, because you guys nag us to death. Now, whether that's true or not, okay, that's just a little humor, okay? But Formula 20. So let's go back. If you make $50,000 and we want you to have a minimum of $1 million. So here, if you are retired at 65, every year you pull out $50,000 to live off of. In 20 years, that 1 million is gone, right? Now, I haven't talked about taxes. I haven't talked about inflation. I haven't talked about what if you got sick. I haven't talked about what if you lived longer. So now, is $1 million enough? It's not. Does that make sense? But until you know that, you're not going to work towards it. Does that make sense? We do financial needs analysis, personal financial strategies. We have financial calculators so that it now can fit your budget, okay? So whichever strategy that you use, remember, procrastination is not part of the strategy, okay? You cannot procrastinate when it comes to this. So, like I shared with you, you need $1 million at age 65. Let me share with you, based on your age, if you need $1 million and you are 25 years old right now, you need to save, okay? And this is, if you save somewhere that gets you an 8% rate of return, 8% rate of return. At age 25, you need to save $286.44 monthly to reach your $1 million goals. Now, if you are 35, you need $670.98 monthly. Not yearly. I heard somebody say yearly back there. Monthly to reach your $1 million goals. Okay, that's at 8%. Now, at 45 years old, okay, you need to save $1,697 monthly. Okay, monthly, not yearly, monthly. Okay, so you see, work with someone. We want you to work with someone on your goals to assess your current situation. You see, you can take a picture of that QR code right there. If you take a picture of that QR code, there's a financial calculator that comes up, and you can put in whatever goals that you want, okay? And you can do it in real time based on the interest rate, okay? Now, it's also in this book, okay? So there's the QR code is also in this book, all right? So that's the QR code. If you knew that, you would, how many of you would love to turn back the time right now, right? So let's talk about obstacles that get in the way. You see, we want to save money for our future. Who does not want to have a better future? Who does not want to save money for their future? But the problem is this, we have a lot of obstacles. Things that life happens. Maybe your car broke down, loss of a property or a loved one. Goals can be pushed further, okay, back if you have some sort of emergency or financial setback. You know, every year, you know, we have what? Not only we have to, before when I was growing up, we just have to worry about graduating from school, getting a good job. But now take a look at what we have to worry about. Who knew that almost every year we live in Texas, we get hurricanes every year. There's a lot of flooding, right? Sometimes people flood their cars, their house. It takes them so much money to recover. Or let's talk about the pandemic the last 2.5 years. Okay, who knew about that? You see, and that's not on top of maybe, you know, your car breakdown, you got sick, your child got sick, or you lost your job. Things happen that you have to prepare for. So you see, we believe that you've got to make sure that would you rather feel certain in your finances or scramble around asking for donation through crowdfunding? That's what Ezekiel is talking about GoFundMe, right? There's so many things right now on GoFundMe. Is that true? Right? And so you don't know if some of them are legit or not legit, okay? So let's talk about here, how do you think your financial foundation should be built? Emergency fund, debt management, proper protection, or investment? Did you know that there's actually a certain way to build it up? Let me ask you a question. Wouldn't you agree with me that all of that is important? Is having an emergency fund important? Yes. What about paying off your debt? Is that important? It is, right? How about proper protection for your family? That's also important. How about for your retirement, for your investment? That's important too. But now, which one of them has more importance? You see? So just like earlier, Pastor Elijah talked about a structure, okay? So here we believe in what's called the financial foundation. Just like building a house, you got to build it from the ground up. You cannot build a house. Let's say if I build a house and I started from the roof down, and I'm going to give you that house to live in for free. Do you want it? No, you don't know when it's going to collapse. Is that true? Right? So here, okay, we're going to teach you how to build your financial foundation the right way. Actually, what you need is proper protection. The first thing you have to have is proper protection, because what happens if something happened to you before you built it up? Does that make sense? You've got to protect yourself from your life, from disability, from getting sick, premature death, okay? Then we want you to get out of debt. Get out of debt sooner rather than later, okay? Then we want you to make sure that you have emergency fund. How much emergency fund? Typically 3 to 6 months when this book was written. But since pandemic, I've been telling my clients 6 to 8 months. Because why? Who knew we were in lockdown for almost 1 year? Who knew that people lost their job, couldn't find a job? You see? And so you need about 6 to 8 months of emergency fund set aside. Then we talk about investment. This seems actually very simple to build, but it's actually very complicated because it takes a process, just like what Pastor Elijah was talking about. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a process to build it up, okay? And so you see, we want you to build it up the right way, okay? Now, I'm gonna share with you the wealth formula. So don't ever tell anybody, I don't know anything about the wealth formula. I'm gonna teach you how to build wealth, okay? So the wealth formula, this is actually the wealth formula is a mathematical problem. You have to have money, okay? Money. You have to have time. You have to have, understand how positive and negative rate of return affects your money, as well as minus inflation, minus tax equals your wealth, okay? That's what happens. That's actually the wealth formula right there, okay? So you gotta have money plus time, plus or minus negative rate of return, then minus inflation, minus tax equals your wealth. See, a lot of times people do understand they need to put some money in. They do understand that they need some time. They understand that they need to have some sort of rate of return. But a lot of people forget about inflation. A lot of people forget about taxation, okay? You know, when this book was written, we talked about inflation as 3.5. How many of you paid attention to the news lately, the last 2 months? Anybody know what inflation rate is the last 2 months? 7%. 7%, about 7.5. And if you didn't know, go to the grocery store, okay? A lot of us are going to become vegan now. Because why? It costs $20 a pound to buy meat. $20 a pound to buy meat nowadays, okay? That's inflation. Or go to pump gas, okay? It went from 2 something to now what? Almost 4 something. 4.39 was the last time I took a look. You see, so that's inflation, okay? And then good old Uncle Sam. So money doesn't grow on tree. You must work for it. If you want to build wealth, there's a wealth formula to build on. So we're going to talk about money and time. First of all, let's talk about money, okay? Money. Time is money. Have you ever heard that expression, time is money? Yes? Okay, time is money, right? So the expression means that in order for you to earn money, you must use your time, trading your time for money. A lot of us know how to work hard for our money. Is that true? But how many of us know how to make our money work for us? It's not enough that you work hard for your money. You've got to make your money now work for you. Okay? So money making money. That refers to money accruing interest over a period of time. Money is now working for you. That's what it means. Money making money, okay? Money earning interest for you. That's when your money's actually working for you. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, so let's go back to the wealth formula and talk about time. So here, time can be for us or against us. Okay. So let's take a look at something. Okay. Two people. Let's say, you know, two people right now that one is Mr. Start Early and one is Mr. Wait Longer. Okay. I'm sorry. I forgot your name. Huh? Perusi. Paul. Okay. Oh, much easier. So Paul, I'm gonna for this example, I'm gonna say that you're 25. Okay. Ezekiel, you're gonna be 25 too. Okay. But now you guys are best buddies. Okay. And Paul, you're gonna be Mr. Start Early. Ezekiel, you're gonna be Mr. Wait Longer. Okay. So let's say I sit down with Paul and I ask him, Paul, can you save $10 a day? He thinks it's doable. So it's $10 a day. He's going to roughly save $300 a month. So that means in 1 year, he's going to save $3,600. We're going to find a place that earns him 8% tax deferred. Okay. Tax deferred means the taxes will be deferred till later. So he saves for the first 7 years. Okay. So $3,600 a year. Now, he's going to put that in, but after 7 years, maybe you settle down, get married, have a family. It's hard for you to save now, right? So you stop saving, but you leave that there and let that money grow for you. So now by the time you're 48, your total contribution is $25,200. But with 8% tax deferred, how much is that right now? $128,000 because your money was growing. Does that make sense? Now, Ezekiel's the same age, 25 years old. I tell him the same thing. I tell him to start saving money. But you know what he told me? He said, Kimmy, I just got out of school. I started making money. I want to buy a new car. I want to travel. I want to take the ladies out. Typical young person, right? It's not really Ezekiel, but you know, I'm just using him as an example, okay? But that's what typical young people do and say. Is that true? So the first 7 years, Ezekiel does not save any money. But now at 32, he settles down with his wife and she says, you need to save for our future. So he starts saving. Then he decides to save $300 a month for the next 17 years. So now Ezekiel's putting in $61,200. If it's $3,600 a year for 17 years, $61,200. At 8% tax deferred, how much does Ezekiel have at age 48? $131,000, where Paul has $128,000. That's only $3,000 difference. But you know what the difference was? $36,000, because Paul only put in $25,200. Ezekiel put in $61,200. The difference is $36,000. So when we say time is money, the 7 years that Ezekiel lost, he's got to make it up with money. Does that make sense? You see? So that's why understanding this, the sooner you understand, the sooner you apply it, the better it is for your future. Okay? So just like earlier, I gave an example of if you're 25 years old, you save $286. But if you're 45 years old, you save $1,600 something. Does that make sense? You see, because now how much time do you have? That time is gone. So when they say time is money, time is actually really money. Okay. Now, so we talked about money. We talked about time. Let's talk about rate of return. Okay. This is very important. What I'm going to share with you is very important. Rate of return or interest is a percentage on net gains or loss on an investment over time. Okay. So let's talk about, let's say, for example, if you earn $6 on a $100 investment, how much did you actually earn or gain? If you earn $6 on a $100 investment, all you have to do is you simply divide the gain by the principal. So you take 6 divided by 100. That's going to be a 6% rate of return. Okay. Now, here, in the Saving Your Future book, this is a mathematical formula, okay, that we teach. It's called the rule of 72, or I call the rule of money. If you ever remember any mathematical formula, I need you to remember this one. This is the most important mathematical formula you need to remember, okay? So if you want to find out how many years it takes for your money to double, you take 72, always the constant number 72, divide by the rate of return. It gives you the amount of years it takes for your money to double. This is an actual mathematical formula. We actually learned it in 7th grade algebra. The problem is in 7th grade algebra, we don't have money. Okay, so let me give you an example. So here, if you're 72 if you earn 4%, you take 72 divided by 4. It gives you 18 years for your money to double. 72 divided by 4 equals 18 years for your money to double. So if you put your money in a place that earns 4%, you put $100 in a place that earns you 4%. The first year is simple interest, okay? Because you earn what? $4, right? So now the second year you have 104. So if you take 4% times 4% times 104, it's $4.16. So now it's interest on interest. That's the second year, it becomes 108.16. But if you do this for 18 years, now it doubles, becomes $200. So at 4%, whether it's $100, $1,000, or $100,000, it takes 18 years to double. Okay? So what if you got 6% rate of return? If you got 6% rate of return, it doubles every 12 years. So now let me give you an example. Let's say your initial investment is $10,000. Okay? So this year, this very year, however old you are, if you put $10,000 away, now 12 years later, if you don't take it out and it's earning 6% every single year, guess what? It becomes now $20,000 12 years later. 12 years after that, it's going to become what? $40,000. And 12 years after that, it becomes what? $80,000, $81,000. Are you ready to retire with $81,000 right now? No. How long is it going to last? If we're lucky with inflation, 1 year. Now, what if you got 8%? 8%, 72 divided by 8 equals what? 9 years. So now every 9 years, your money doubles. So you see, if you start this year at 10,000, 9 years later, it becomes almost what? 20,000. 9 years after that, it becomes what? 40,000. 9 years after that, 80. Another 9 years, 160. Let me ask you a question. Between 6 and 8%, what's the percentage difference? 2%. Before this, 2% wasn't a big deal. Is that true? When you think about it. But 2% over the same exact amount of money, same amount of time frame, but 2% over the exact same amount of time frame, your money just doubled. That's a big deal. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, what about if you got 10%? Is that a bigger deal now? Oh yeah. 72 divided by 10 equals 7.2 years. So every 7.2 years, your money doubles. So here, let's take a look. By the time you're 36 years later, that same amount of money is what? Now, going to be, $309,000. Is that a big deal now? It's a big deal now. The problem is this. This rule works for you or works against you. The majority of the people, the reason they work so hard, but yet the problem is they're still struggling, is this rule is working against them. How many of you put your money in the bank? A lot of people. How much does the bank really give you? 0.00 nothing. So I can't divide by that. I'm just going to give you 1%. 72 divided by 1, Paul, is 72. Are you going to be alive by the time it doubles one time? Right? Now, that's the money that you save for your future. Okay? Now, that's why it's working against you, because most people put their money in the bank. Let's talk about the money you pay. How many of you have a mortgage? Yes? Average interest rate, 5 right now, right? 5%. How many of you finance a car? Yes, some people, anywhere from 4% to 22%, depending on your credit history. That's why credit is so important, okay? So how many of you have a personal loan or student loan? Personal loan, student loan right now is between 6 to 15%. And how many of you have a credit card? Oh, come on, I know y'all lying. You know, we came to America, we always want to become Americanized. Well, becoming Americanized, guess what we did? Got credit cards. What's the average interest rate in a credit card? 18 to 30%. 18 to 29.9%. Is that true? So this is what I mean by this rule works for you or against you. On the money you keep at a low interest rate. And it takes you, if it's 1%, it takes 72 years for your money to double. But now, let's say you have a credit card at, let's say 18%. 18%, 72 divided by 18 equals what? 4 years for that amount of debt to double. Apply this rule now to your debt. Does that make sense? So here, if you put $100, if you put $100,000 in an account, and in 9 years, it guarantees you to double to 200,000, what is your rate of return? Well, I just take, if it's double in 9 years, I take 72 divided by 9 equals what? 8%. So that means that it's gonna, that means that that account is earning 8%. Okay. Now, if you ignore paying your balance on your credit card and the APR is 18%, okay? So here, if the APR is 18%, that means how many years will your debt balance double? 72 divided by 18 equals what? 4 years, okay? So using previous table at 10% rate of return, approximately how much would you have had if you save, if you have after 43 years? Well, remember at 36 years, okay, we would have 300,000 at 10%, right? So now at 43 years, it's going to be over 600,000 because why? That's one more double. Does that make sense? Okay. And so you see that's why this is so important. Now, I tell you, I've been in the US for over 43 years. And if I'd known this when I first started, how much better could my life be? So much better. Does that make sense? So here, the wealth formula. Wealth is a mathematical problem, okay? So we talked about rate of return. Now let's talk about inflation. Since 1958, the average inflation rate is 3.7 years, okay? We're not gonna take the last 2 months into account. That's too scary, okay? But let me share with you something. In the 70s, a new house was 23,000, gas was 53 cents, a loaf of bread was 25 cents, and wages was 9,400. But in the 70s, the husband would go to work, the wives would stay home and take care of the family. They could still buy a house, send the kids to college. Is that true? But now, guess what? In the 90s, new homes cost what? 123,000. Gas is $1.15. The loaf of bread is what? 70 cents. And your average wage is about $29,000. Let's talk about 2020. New house is about $400,000. Gas is $2.17. Okay. Loaf of bread is $1.50. And here your wage is what? $56,000. So your income has barely doubled. It hasn't doubled. The income hasn't doubled yet, right? But the cost of a house went up 3 times. Gas was what? Technically now gas is over about 3 times, okay? And here a loaf of bread is what? Double, but your income hasn't doubled. So guess what happens to your purchasing power? What you can buy now is a lot less. Does that make sense? So that's why inflation is so crucial. That's why even if I told you $1 million, by the time you retire, $1 million is no longer $1 million. You know, I walked out of HEB, first time the end of December, I went to the grocery store, 1 bag of grocery, okay? I walked out of HEB is $100. And I looked and I said, there was not much in that 1 bag. You see, $100 used to buy me a whole cart. That's the biggest difference. Now, so here, inflation over time, assuming rate of return at 3%. And so we're gonna still, and this is why you have to understand why this is so crucial to you, okay? Inflation over time, what will $100 buy you over the next 20 years? Well, 5 years from now, and this is only at a 3%, we're not calculating 7.5, okay? And so you can Google, inflation for the last 2 months is 7.5, okay? So, but we're just only using 3%. So in 5 years, $100 would only be now worth $86. But in what you would need to increase it is $116. So now in 15 years, okay, or let's say 20 years from now when you retire, $100 is going to be actually worth $55. And what you need to equal to $100 is $181 to equal to $100. So now let me ask you a question. What's the purchasing power of your $100 doing over time? It is decreasing, okay? Not only that, but let me share with you. If you start with $100,000, how much would you increase inflation amount in 20 years? It's actually going to be 181,000. Does that make sense? Or if I asked you earlier, you need $1 million for retirement in 20 years, how much would you need now? 1.81 million, not 1 million. Does that make sense? We have to know these numbers. The reason we have to know these numbers is that that's the only way we're willing to prepare, willing to save. If we don't know our numbers, guess what? We're not willing to save towards it. Does that make sense? Now, let's take a look at something. Okay, and retirement amount is going to be $1.8 million. Okay, now, so the next thing we want to talk about is taxes. So how many of you, we all have the same uncle? Did you know that? His name's Uncle Sam. And he's the one uncle that none of us like, right? I was telling, I went back to my country and somebody told me from my country, they said, you're so lucky to live in America. And I looked at them and I said, you're so lucky to live here. I said, people don't realize, they don't tell you about, when you go to work in Vietnam, you go to work, whatever you make, you take home. There's no taxes. But here, guess what happens? We have good old Uncle Sam, right? And so he takes taxes. So taxes, there's 3 categories to taxes, okay? Tax now. Tax now means this. Tax now means that the earnings from the accounts that you earn, you have to pay taxes at the end of the year. Okay, so if you make money on these accounts, tax now means that you have to pay tax at the end of the year. That's the IRS sends you a love letter. It's called 1099. So if you make any interest on let's say your savings account, checking account, or your mutual fund, your stocks, you got to pay taxes at the end of the year. Okay, now tax later or tax deferred. Okay, that means that refers to the money that you put into an account pre-tax, okay? And then you have not paid income tax yet. It's gonna grow, okay? But now your taxes are gonna be deferred until you withdraw. So when you withdraw, you have to pay tax at that time, Does that make sense? So that's typically your 401k, your IRA, your 403b, your annuities, okay? Now, tax advantage means that you generally won't pay taxes when you withdraw from the account, but you pay taxes when it went into the account, okay? So it's typically after-tax money that you've already paid, okay? So let me ask you a question. Just by not really understanding much about taxes, tax now, tax later, tax advantage. How many of you, which one would you like? Tax advantage, anything that you can have an advantage over tax is what you want to find out about. Is that true? But most of us only know about tax now and tax later. Does that make sense? Okay. We have to learn about what? Tax advantage. Have you ever heard that rich people pay less taxes than poor people? That didn't make any sense to me. Okay. If you make more money than me, you have to pay more taxes than me, right? But remember when Donald Trump got elected? And remember that, you know, he's a billionaire, right? He's a billionaire, okay? Did you also remember hearing that he hasn't paid any taxes since 1999? That's why there was a big stink about them releasing his tax records, because he hasn't paid taxes since 1999. So do you think, let me ask you a question. Do you think that these are important things that you must make time to learn about? Because if not, you're losing that money to Uncle Sam anyways. Does that make sense? Now, so here, identify the product: savings account, tax now; 401k, tax later; mutual fund, tax now; Roth IRA, tax advantage, okay? So you want to reduce the impact of taxes. When saving, you want to consider the effect of taxes have on your income. So let's say if you have a checking, savings, and mutual fund, you pay taxes on the front end of it. Okay. So if you make, let's say you make $100 in terms of gains, you pay, let's say 25% to Uncle Sam. So now only $75 is reinvested. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, tax later means that whole $100 is being reinvested. Okay. But you have to pay now when you withdraw. By the way, how many of you think in 10, 15, 20 years from now, you're going to pay less taxes? No. The only way the government can reduce taxes is they stop spending. Okay. Now, what do you think the likelihood of the government going to stop spending? Very little, right? Okay. Tax advantage is, let's say you pay taxes up front and then you don't pay taxes on the back end. Okay. Whoops. So that's your Roth IRA, 529 college plan, life insurance, HSA. Okay. Now, so if you save $100 and you gain 4% on your money, let's apply the wealth formula. You got to pay taxes on that. So now if you pay taxes on that, what happens is this: you subtract $1. If it's 25%, you subtract $1. Net after tax is what? 103, right? And less inflation at 3%. How much did you make? What's left? $100. What did you start with? $100. Did you earn anything? No. And that's if you earn 4%. But earlier we talked about some people putting their money in the bank earning what? Less than 1%. Does that make sense? So you must get at least 4% to beat taxes and inflation. At least 4% or more. Okay. So are you winning? Are you gaining? Or are you losing? Some people are losing. So ask yourself this question. Okay. What would it mean for your family if you had enough money and you're free from financial worries? What would it mean for your family's future? Okay. In terms of whatever goals or long-term or short-term goals you have, it begins with building a solid financial foundation and understanding the wealth formula. Okay. So that's why it's very important for you to build it up and build it up correctly. So you can be financially free if you have a plan of action. Okay. So let's talk about it. You see, we want to teach you how to increase your cash flow, make more money. Okay. While you can. We want you to have multiple sources of income. Okay. Then we want you to spend less and save more. Then we want you to reduce your debt and your liabilities, okay? Then we want you to understand how money works and become your own money manager. Have a clear financial goal, okay? Then have a life of purpose, build a legacy, and you got to embrace change and expect to succeed. This is a plan of action. Financial independence is not a dream, it's often a decision. You've got to make a decision to become financially free. Does that make sense? Okay. So taking action, right, is this. You know, we have a WSB community on Facebook, right? So this person went to our workshop, okay? And it says, she says, financial education literacy with applied knowledge will serve your future well. We started from scratch in our 20s. We were able to achieve our first $1 million goal saved and are very proud of money management and discipline since. We're excited to achieve our next goal, and it won't take and this time it won't take that long. So you see, because this person started learning at a young age, started applying, she was able to now have about $1 million saved up. Okay. So you see, only you can take the steps necessary for your financial future. All right. So here, with one of the greatest miracles that you can change your life by simply changing the way you think. If you know some of this information, you just change how you think and how you apply this information. Okay. So we want you to right now, this is normally a workshop that I do. Okay. So normally at every workshop, we have homework. Okay. So typically our homework is we ask people to make sure that, let's say they learn about all the different other workshops, go through a different workshop, be financially educated, and sit down with a financial professional so that now they can learn how to build their financial foundation up the right way. Does that make sense? Okay, so this is the first workshop I'm going to do. I'm going to do the second workshop in 5 minutes. Okay, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. All right, and come back. I hope that so far this has been helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kimi. Thanks for that wonderful time. Just like she said, we'll take another 5 minutes bathroom lunch break, and then we'll come back right after for the second session. So while the second session is going on, if you have questions that you want to ask either Pastor Elijah or Ms. Kimi, take note of those questions. Then we do have a time crunch, so it's going to be around the same time we're taking those questions. If you also want to snack on something, it will be about the same time. We actually had those times separated before, but I don't think that can happen. So while the questions are going on, if you still feel like you want to nib on something, a drink, another, snack, yeah, please go ahead and do that. Thank you so much for coming. God bless you all.
So now try, no, workshop. Well, no, where's 2? Oh, wait, turn off the mic.
And I just want to quickly make an announcement while we're taking the 5 minutes break. I know Ms. Kimi had talked about the books. One book. One is the actual financial literacy book. Majority of what she had talked about during the first session and what she'll be talking about during the next session is actually engulfed in these books. And then the other one is the workbook. It's $10. Like she said, normally they would give it out free, but they realized that people just, toss it away. So pretty much you're paying for the printing cost. This is going to do a whole lot of good. I'm encouraging that everybody grabs a copy on your way out. All right, thank you so much. And you can indicate if you want one, I'll grab those copies for you. Thank you. You can either see myself or Brother Paul. Thank you. Sorry, quick one, because I know a couple of people came up with questions as regards if you don't have cash and you want to Zelle. Yes, we do have that option. I'm just going to reel out the number, but for those of you that have the Men of Valor President number, yeah, that's going to be the Zelle number that you can Zelle to. His number is 281-745-4705. I don't know if someone can help display that. Media, can we have that up on screen? That's the number that you can Zelle to, $10 and then out. Oh, okay. So 281-745-4705 is the number that you can Zelle to. And then see myself, or once you Zelle and I confirm the amount, yeah, I can always get you the copy. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming.
All righty, so that's the bell. It means class is back in session. All right, so we're gonna start now the second leg of Miss Lee. So I think we'll just give her a few moments for her to come forward, and she'll continue for where she left off and take us into the next step, or the next stage rather. All right, and here she comes. So welcome back to the stage. Thank you.
All right. So, let me get this workshop up here. All right, so the next workshop I'm gonna do is called Increasing Cash Flow and Debt Management, okay? And once again, this is my disclaimer, okay? I'm not here to give you tax or legal advice. I just wanna give you some financial concepts so that you can apply to and become your own money manager, all right? So yes, we are still trying to educate 30 million families by the year 2030. Okay, so in this workshop, we're gonna share with you how to become your own money manager for you to control your, we want you to control your finances and control your future, okay? So what are you gonna be learning in this workshop? Okay, what does your next 5 years look like? Has anybody ever thought about that? Okay, so here, what will your net worth be? Do you even know what your current net worth is? Okay, what will your retirement look like? Okay, or what is your plan to achieve these goals? Have a vision for you and your family, and your goal is frequently reviewed so that you can stay on track. So now let's talk about, okay, increasing cash flow. So let me share with you what you're going to learn in increasing cash flow. We're going to show you how to discover more money that you did not know you have. I cannot make money appear where you don't have money, but I can teach you how to find some money. Does that make sense? Okay. So we're going to discover $100 or more that you did not know you have. Find out where your money's going. Okay. Build a real plan for your debt faster. Okay. As well as increase your cash flow. How many of you would love to increase your cash flow? Absolutely. Okay. So we want to know, we want you to know money isn't the greatest asset, but applied knowledge is. Okay. So let's talk about, there are 2 ways to increase your cash flow. All right. Number 1, spend less. That's kind of hard for some people. Why? Because you're already living paycheck to paycheck. So does that mean you cut down, instead of cutting down 3 meals, you only eat 2 meals a day? That's hard for a lot of people. Does that make sense? Okay. So, or number 2, earn more. Okay. If you can't spend less, then you got to earn more. Okay. That's also kind of hard too, right? So let me ask you a question. Typically, which one is easier to do? Spend less or earn more? Anybody know? Actually, it's earn more. Because if you're living paycheck to paycheck, it's kind of hard to cut down. Okay. But let's say earn more. Maybe you can ask for overtime. You can stay overtime. Maybe you can find a part-time job. Okay. That's what we mean by earning more. Now, so pay yourself first. Okay. This is a super important concept. Okay. Most people pay themselves last. We need you to pay yourself first. So paying yourself first, that means you save, then you spend, then now, but if you pay yourself last, you spend first and you save afterwards. So let me give you this example, okay? This is your paycheck. When you get your paycheck, Uncle Sam takes a portion of it for taxes. Is that true? Then maybe you gotta pay your mortgage or rent, okay? Maybe your car payment, then your debts, your living expenses. By the time you're done, how much you have left? Nothing. Is that how life has been? Yes, right? Now, so if that's the case, the next 20, 30 years, how much are you gonna have? Nothing. So what we want you to do is this. This is still your paycheck. When you get your paycheck, you've gotta what? Pay Uncle Sam. Then the next shift you have to write is a check to yourself. Pay yourself first, okay? That's very important. Make your first payment to your family, to your children, okay? And your future. Then spend what's left over, okay? So have you saved at least 10% of your month's income yet this month? Have you saved at least 10%? Most people haven't even saved 10%. Does that make sense? So let's find ways for you to save more money. So let me share with you. Have you ever sat down and write down how much you spend a day? You know, let me ask you a question. If you have, let's say $100, but now you have 5 $20 bills in your wallet that equals to $100, okay? Maybe you wake up, you decide you want to go buy a cup of coffee, buy some breakfast, you give them a $20 bill, right? And they give you change. Lunch, maybe you got to eat. Then after that, what happens? After work, maybe you decide, grab something on the way home. You break a $20 bill. No big deal. Another 20, right? What if you only had a $100 bill in your wallet now? Are you willing to break that $100 bill for a $4 cup of coffee? You think twice about it. Is that true? Right? Now, have you ever thought about how much you spend a day? But now this is the problem. You no longer have a $100 bill. You know what you have? a little plastic card, and you don't see it. All you do is what? So guess what we do every day? Swipe. 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, no big deal. And we keep swiping and swiping and swiping. In one day, you don't know how many times you swipe. Is that true? So you got to find out how much you're spending. You have to find out how many times you're swiping nowadays. Now, oh, by the way, it's no longer swipe. Swipe is too difficult. Tap. You don't swipe anymore. That's too much. It hurts your arm. You just tap. Does that make sense? They make it more easy. But the easier it is, guess what? The more you tap, the more you spend. Does that make sense? So you see, you've got to find out paying is more convenient than ever. But don't lose control of how much you spend. Ask yourself, if you pay this credit, are you able to pay it off in full? If you're going to swipe or tap, can you pay that off at the end of the month? Okay? Did you spend wisely? Now, we sit down with people and we do what's called a financial strategy, where we find out where your money's going every single month. Okay? So that now you know what's going to happen with your money. Here, check your progress. If saving, okay, or if your savings up or paying down. New possible savings, automatic payment, recurring, okay? A lot of times we set up things that are automatic right now. Is that true? Okay? Well, let's talk about that. Possible monthly savings. Possibly you want to take a picture of this, okay? If you receive your yearly tax refund, how many of you are expecting a tax refund this year? Okay? Adjust what's taken from your paycheck. If you're getting a tax refund, that means that you need to adjust your paycheck. That means you gave Uncle Sam too much money last year. So he's just giving you back your money at 0% interest. So you have to adjust how much he's taking out. Does that make sense? Because that amount of money, let's say $2,000 that you're expecting to get a tax refund, he's giving back. You overpaid Uncle Sam last year, $2,000. He gives you back $2,000 this year. That means at 0% interest. But now let me ask you a question. What if that $2,000 went to paying your credit card? Or what if that $2,000 went for your emergency fund? Is that much better now? Absolutely. Okay. How about keeping your house warmer or cooler? Because what happened is I didn't know I would turn off I thought that if I turned off my AC when I left the house, okay, then I would save money. But actually I was spending more because now guess what happens? It takes longer to cool down the house. Does that make sense? So you got to keep your house either warm or cooler. If you're trying to keep it cooler, okay, raise it up a little bit and just lower a little bit when you get home. Does that make sense? Now, also eliminate or reduce premium or satellite service. Oh, this is a good one. How many of you pay $150, $200, $250 for your cable bill? How many of you even know how much you're paying for your cable bill? Some of you don't even know that. Is that true? But if you take a look, we set something up and guess what? We leave it there. We don't go back and we don't negotiate or find something that's cheaper. I'm guilty of that. We've done this workshop since 2015. And I'm going to be very honest with you. When I started doing the workshop, I've been in the financial industry for 20 years. So I said, I know all of this. So I was just giving the workshop. I didn't do my homework. What student does not do their homework if they're not being checked, right? So guess what? This student did not do her homework. About maybe 3 months, 4 months into it, I just looked at one day and I was talking to a client and I said, have you done your homework? They said, no. Kimmy, do you know how much time it's going to take me to do all that? And then I thought about it. I said, I don't know, because I didn't do my homework. So guess what I did? I decided I'm going to do my homework. So now I call my cable bill and I reduce my cable bill, because here I had to have, at that time, the premium package. You know, everything on my, because if I come home, I work hard, I come home, I want to be able to watch a movie. Okay. Well, I was paying $250 for that premium package. Does that make sense? So when I paid basic on everything, I reduced it down about $100. $100 didn't seem like a big deal, but $100 every month over time, that's $1,200. That's now a big deal. Does that make sense? So that's just one of my homework, okay? Also, how about reducing, using coupons for groceries or dining out? Okay, or reducing the number of lattes, alcohol, or cigarettes you buy each month. You know, I used to go to Starbucks all the time, but now I just invested in a machine. Okay, that's $200, because I thought, why would I buy a $200 machine before? Okay, but you know what? Every $5, $6 a day adds up. Does that make sense? So I decided to go out and buy a $200 machine. So now I've had that $200 machine for what? 4 or 5 years. And I don't go to Starbucks anymore. Okay. Now also, eating early or choosing happy hour menu. Did you know happy hour menu is like half the price? Right? Same portion, half the price. Just if you go, instead of eating at 6:30, you eat at a little bit earlier, 6 o'clock. Now it's happy hour menu. Okay. How about packing your own lunch? Or consider you buying a used car. If you buy a new car, the minute you drive off the lot, it already depreciated. Or reevaluate your home auto insurance. Oh my goodness, this was a big one for me. So, you know, you buy, and some of you I might help some of you here too. You know, how many of you have a alarm at your house? Your home alarm, yes? So let's say when you buy your homeowner's insurance, you have to let them know that you have a home alarm, okay? Well, guess what the insurance company doesn't do? Doesn't tell you that depending on your insurance company, every 2 or 3 years, you're supposed to reevaluate and let them know that you still have your home alarm. So you know how they say if you buy your car, your homeowner's insurance, okay, with them, then you have a bundle package, it goes down, right? Well, guess what? I had a bundle package, but I didn't know that I had to reevaluate my homeowner's insurance every single year. So after 5 years, okay, in my last house, I realized that for every 3 years, I was supposed to send them and give them an alarm certificate that I actually still have an alarm going. Then that would reduce my homeowner's insurance. I wasn't reevaluating. So guess what? That bundle discount that I was supposed to get, I didn't get. Okay, so we've got to reevaluate it all the time. How about saving on carpooling, walking, biking, taking public transportation, or reducing extra on your cell phone, data, features, or corporate discounts? Have you checked that? Okay, because sometimes now you can reduce that. Okay, or let's say, how about if you own a cell phone, why keep the old landline? Nowadays, a lot of us don't use landlines anymore. Is that true? Okay, so we can get rid of it. Or how about if your kids, how many of your kids you have to pay for video games for them? How about we look for free video games? There's a lot of free stuff online. Does that make sense? Or let's say cancel magazine subscription that is on automatic renewal. How many stuff do you have that you have automatic renewal subscription on and you don't even realize it? Does that make sense? Or let's say cancel gym membership that you don't use. How many of us pay for gym membership that we don't use? I'm so guilty. I am so guilty. I actually sat down with a client and the wife told me that when we were doing the budget, the wife told me that she's the one who mows their grass, takes care of their lawn. I said, you actually do and she says, yes. And I said, oh, wow, I'm so impressed. You know, typically I see men do that, right? And she says, you know why? And I said, why? She says, that's how I get my exercise. I said, wow, that's pretty good. You see, why pay for gym membership when we can go out and take a walk in the park? Okay. Also, cancel or lower accidental death or dismemberment policies. Okay. Sometimes you buy certain insurance that you actually will never use. Cut down on shopping or clothes. See, women, cut down on shopping. The men are laughing, right? I see the men are laughing. Men, you got to cut down on buying gadgets. You don't need a new phone every year. You don't need a new tablet every year. Just like women, we don't need new shoes. Does that make sense? Okay, so cut down on shopping. Credit on your auto appliance, let's say credit on auto or appliances, your cycles, trailers, okay, items that you would finance. Household service, cleaning or repairing, doing your own chores. Instead of hiring somebody to clean your house, you do it. That's a form of exercise too, okay? Business deductions, okay? Avoid ATM fees. Oh my goodness. Okay, by the way, business deductions. You know, as a business owner, when you work for somebody, you get your taxes taken off at the top. As a business owner, I get to subtract all of my business expenses and then pay taxes on what's left. That's the difference. Does that make sense? Also, avoid ATM fees, checking, savings account, overdraft charges, bounce checks, money orders. A lot of people use this and they don't realize that there's fees and charges. Okay, and that's very costly. Nowadays, ATM charges is what? Like $30. Okay, so make sure. Be creative, refrain from overspending on gifts. Oh my God, used to be gifts. You buy somebody something like $10, $20, they're so appreciative. Nowadays, gifts have to be so elaborate. People are trying to keep up with the Joneses. Who are the Joneses anyways? You see? Not before, you know, when you have a baby birthday party, guess what? When I was young, I'm so excited when it came to my birthday. My parents would take me to a place that where we were, it's called Farrell's Ice Cream. And if it was your birthday, you have one scoop of every flavor. There's like 30 flavors. And man, I thought that was the best birthday gift, birthday party ever. But that's free from Farrell's. Nowadays, birthday party is what? Very elaborate. Not only you have to provide gifts, but you have to have that bouncy thing for the kids. Is that true? Right? And maybe a clown, maybe some, also some giveaways. Oh, don't forget the food. Okay? But now also food to go too. Is that true? Right? So you see, it's very costly. Wants and needs. There's ways that you can save money. You just got to find ways to cut back. And you've got to sit down and go through this and do it yourself. Because why? Time is money. So when you do this, you can find an extra $100, $200, $300 that you never knew that you had. Does that make sense? And over time, that if you found $300, 100 from here, 100 from here, 100 from here, that's $300. In 1 year, that's $3,006. Is that the amount that you could put in your savings account? Or is that the amount that you put in your emergency fund? Yes. So you've got to reevaluate your expenses. Okay. Now, also take control. Take control of your cash flow. What is wasting $6 a day? You know, $6 a day is a latte, Starbucks. Okay, because why? If you save $6 a day, guess what? Here at 10% annually, in 10 years, it's going to be worth $39,000. In 20 years, it's going to be worth $142,000. And in 30 years, that's $400,000 if you save $6.60 a day at 10% rate of return. Is that a big deal? People didn't think, a lot of people don't think that saving $6.60 a day is a big deal. But saving $6.60 a day could be a very big deal to you and your family, okay? Now, what if you can save more? If you can save more, you can have more. Does that make sense? What would you do with $400,000 if you had that? Would that be a big difference in your retirement? Absolutely. Okay. That's a difference on when you can retire, because people think that retirement is an age. Retirement is not an age. Retirement is a dollar amount. If you are 65 and if you are 50 years old, and let's say you have $1 million, if that was our goal, if you're 50 years old, you have $1 million, that means you can retire at 50 years old, right? But now if you're 65 and you don't have $1 million, you only have a couple $100,000, can you retire now? No, because you won't even be able to now retire and live off for the rest of the next 20 years. Does that make sense? So retirement is not an age, it's a dollar amount, okay? Now, so if we were to understand assets, liabilities, and net worth, how many of you know what your asset is? How many of you know what an asset is? Something that has monetary value. How many of you know what a liability is? A claim on your asset. How many of you know what your net worth is? Asset minus liability, and asset minus liability equals your net worth, okay? So now, simply put, asset puts money into your pocket, liability takes money out of your pocket. The rich buy assets, the middle class buy liabilities, and they think they're assets. What do you think? Is a new luxury car, high-end purse, or a tech toy an asset or a liability? It's a liability, okay? But a lot of people think they're assets. Does that make sense? Now, what about your new home? That's an asset because it grows over time, okay? Can we reduce our liabilities and cut down on the debt? Yes, you can, okay? So you absolutely can. So here, you want to make sure that you go through, okay, and figure out what are assets and what are liabilities. So you want to sit down and list all of this. What's the market value of your home? What about your mutual fund? What about your stocks, your options, your bonds, your CDs, your savings account, checking account, retirement? When was the last time you looked at all of this? Have you ever looked at all of this? You know, I sat down with a gentleman that's 65 years old 2 weeks ago. 65 years old. I asked him, how much do you have in your retirement plan? Kimmy, I don't know. How much does your wife have in her 401k? Kimmy, I don't know. How much you have in your 401k? Honestly, Kimmy, I don't know. You know what? I'm so busy with working. Then I help take care of my grandkids that I never took the time to find out. And I said to him, because he was wanting to retire, I said, if you don't even know how much you have in your 401k, your retirement plan, how do you know that you can retire right now? That's why you have to do this periodically, at least once a year, and find out whether your asset is growing or your liability is growing, or your net worth is growing, or actually going down. Does that make sense? Now, so you got to look at not only just assets, but you got to look at liabilities too. Liabilities include your mortgage, your second mortgage, okay? Your credit cards, your personal loans, your car loans, your debts, okay? So these are important things for us to learn about. So now, here, monthly cash flow, whatever your total income is, you take your total income, all right, which is your total asset contribution, minus your total liability contribution, minus your total monthly expense equals your cash flow. You have to know what your discretionary income is every single month, meaning that what you take home minus what you have to spend on all of your debts and your expenses, then what you have is your discretionary income. Now that's what you can figure out what you need to work with. Does that make sense? Okay. So here, let's do an exercise. Are you a creature of habit? So everybody put down your phone, put down your paperwork, and your pen. I need you to clasp your hand. Just clasp your hand, okay? Which one is up? The right or the right hand, or is your right thumb up or your left thumb up? Right? Okay, now shake. Clasp again. What happens? Same one. Is that true? Okay. You see, we are creatures of habit. You see? Now cross your arm. Which one's on top? Okay, now shake your arm. Now cross your arm again. Which one's on top? Same thing. Okay, men, when you put on your shirt, do you start from the top button or you start from the bottom button up? Okay, all right. So you see, do you have a spending habit or a saving habit? Did you know that a lot of us have a spending habit? Everything's a habit. A lot of us have a spending habit. We don't have a saving habit. We have to learn. What I'm teaching you today doesn't mean that tomorrow when you go home, everything miraculously change. It's not going to change overnight. Because why? Maybe you have 10 years, 20 years of this habit that you've got to break. Does that make sense? Honestly, when I sat down and I learned this the first time, I was amazed. I was blown away. I said, wow. And you see, it took me going in this industry and seeing people's situation day in and day out and doing their financial checkup every single day to realize that I don't want to be in the same situation. That's how I changed my habit over time. Okay, so you see, like building a house, it comes from a strong financial foundation. So here, let's talk about that. Earlier I shared with you, okay, it's always going to come back to financial foundation. Okay, let's move from let's talk about debt management now. Okay, move from minimizing your expenses to managing your debt. So common forms of debt. Okay, your house, student debt, credit card debt, car loan. Okay, credit cards right now is a debt that can grow fast if unchecked, but also it's something that you can manage better now. Did you know that the average American is in more debt than ever? You know, before, I think your culture is a lot like mine, where in our culture, don't we have to pay cash for everything back home? So if you don't have cash, you don't buy. Is that true? But we become Americanized. Now, guess what? We buy everything on credit. No, it's no longer swipe, it's tap. So you see, we buy everything on credit now. So the average American carries a credit card balance of $5,315. That's the average. Did you know that average family has 12 or more credit cards? When I found that out, I said, thank God I'm below average. 12 or more credit cards. You know, you have a Visa, MasterCard, American Express, then you have what, Macy's, then, oh, don't forget your gas card, right? And then, so airline cards, so many different credit cards. It all adds up. Thank God it's 12 or more credit cards. I said, oh, thank God I'm below average. Are we tired of paying interest to someone else? Yes. So let me give you this example. If you're paying the minimum, okay? If you're paying the minimum, for example, if you pay $5,000 in credit card, minimum payment is $150 and the APR is 19%. Of $200, 78 will go towards interest and only 122 actually go towards the $5,000 debt. Most people only pay like $150, $200 on the credit card. Okay, so now only paying the minimum, that means that you would pay $2,000, okay, $164 in interest, okay, in 4 years. 48 months equals 4 years. So here, that means that in 4 years, instead of owing $5,000 in credit card debt, you actually will now owe what? $7,162. A $5,000 credit card debt doesn't seem like it's hard to get paid off. Is that true? But guess what? If you're paying the minimum, it now becomes $7,162. So the real cost of debt, imagine $5,000 instead of putting and put $78 a month that you could pay towards your interest into an account that grew 8%. Okay. So here, if you had $5,000 and you put $78, okay, which is the amount you would have paid into your credit card interest, right? Now, if you take that $5,000 plus $78 monthly, 8% over 30 years, that's $156,000. Is that a big deal now? That's a big deal now. That's the difference whether you can retire. That's the difference whether your kids can go to school. That's the difference where how you retire. Okay. Now, just an example of how rich get richer and the poor gets poorer. So make a plan to live debt free, live within your means, not increasing your debt, understanding how your credit cards, your APR, your minimum payment works. How many of you actually know what the APR is on your credit card? Most people don't know. Did you know that a few years back, they made it a law that now they have to put on your credit card statement in a corner, okay, in one of those pages, if you paid the minimum, this is how much you will pay, and this is how long it will take you to pay it off. That's in your credit card statement. But the problem is most people don't look at that. All they look at is the balance and the payment. And they don't understand everything else. So when they don't understand everything else, guess what? They're not saving money or trying to get out of debt. Don't apply for more credit or higher limit, okay? And by the way, let me share with you something. How many of you would like to have good credit score? Did you know that if you have debt and you went to a debt counseling, credit counseling company, did you know that that reduces your credit score? Because why? The credit card companies think that now you need help. You're not a responsible person, that you have to go and hire somebody to help you. So they lower your credit score. That's horrible, right? Now, let me share with you how to increase your credit score. Very simple. Your debt to credit ratio should not be any more than 30%. So let's say if you have a credit line of $5,000, that's your debt to credit ratio. That means that now you have $5,000 credit. You should not owe more than $1,500 on there. 30% of that is your debt now. Because if you use all the $5,000, okay, then guess what? You're irresponsible to the credit card company. Little simple things, you see? So just because you get a $5,000 credit card limit doesn't mean that you can go and swipe and swipe and swipe or tap $5,000. Does that make sense? Now, so many credit card users allow you to freeze your credit card to prevent purchase on account. You can freeze your credit. So that now whenever you decide you want something, you have to unfreeze it. It takes time. You know, that's the time that you think whether, should I buy it or should I not? You go to the store, guess what happens? You see it, it's so nice, you want to buy it. Does that make sense? But now if you have to go home and unfreeze your credit card, okay, then you said, you know what, let me unfreeze my credit card, let me come back tomorrow. Well, by the time you unfreeze your credit card, think about it, you don't want it anymore. Does that make sense? Also, build habits of using cash and debit, okay? Work towards paying off your balance. Remember, I showed you earlier, there's a difference between a $100 bill and 5 $20 bills. When you use cash, cash is king, right? But also make sure how you use cash too. Because with small bills, you don't mind. But if it's a big bill, you don't want to break it. Does that make sense? Now, so there's something called debt roll-up. How many of you have debt right now? What if I can teach you how to pay off your debt? Right here, right now. Okay? Okay, let me show you something called debt roll-up. Debt roll-up is, it's called debt roll-up or snowball method of systematic approach to paying more than the minimum. As soon as the first balance is paid off, they free up the payment amount and use it to pay down the next debt, to pay it down faster, okay? So it's called the snowball effect, all right? So 2 approaches. Which one is faster, okay? Highest interest first or smallest balance first. Highest interest, you'll save money and over time. Smallest balance first, you pay a little bit more in interest, but you have the greatest emotional satisfaction. So you can do it 1 or 2 ways, okay? So let me teach you debt roll-up. All right, so I need you to go home and I need you to list all of your debts, okay? Your mortgage, your bank account debt, if you have a credit line with your bank, your auto loan, your MasterCard, your Visa, your home improvement, all of your credit cards. I need you to list the balance. Then I need you to list the interest rate. You have to find out what the interest rate you're paying is on all of your debt, okay? And what your monthly payment that you've been paying into. So here, let me give you this example. If you calculate the total balance, it's going to be with the home, it's $401,000 in debt and the interest rate, right? Now, the monthly payment. So here, this person is paying $2,857 every single month for all of that debt, okay? So all I'm going to do is now say, okay, let's say, Paul, I'm going to pick you, okay? I said, Paul, do you have an extra $100 that we can apply to debt roll-up? You just did my exercise with increase in cash flow. You found an extra $100, you cut your cable bill. So now you have that extra $100. So let's take that extra $100, only extra $100, and we're going to apply it to your debt, okay? So now what happens is this. You see your credit card, the lowest one right there, okay, the very bottom? You normally pay $10, but now you're going to take that extra $100 and you're going to pay to your credit card. Well, the balance was $150. So now what happens is you're paying $110. So realistically, over here in 2 months, you would have paid that off. Is that true? Okay. So now you see that 110 that you have freed up. You've just paid that 150 off. Okay. You see that 110 that you paid off? I want you to take that 110. I want you to add it to that next debt amount. The next debt amount is what? Is $525. And you paid what? $25. So now I want you to, you've already paid that off. I want you to take 110 and apply that. Instead of paying $25, I want you to apply 110. So now you're going to pay $135. So in 6 months, guess what? You paid that debt off. Once you paid that debt off, you freed up now what? 135. I want you to add 135 to now home improvement debt. So you're going to pay 135 to $50. So you're going to pay what? $185. So now it's going to reduce that down by what? 12 months. Then you can take the 185 and apply it to what? The next visa. So when you paid off something, we're not going to recharge on it, okay? We're going to take that payment and we're going to apply it to the next debt. Does that make sense? So here, if you keep doing this, this is what we call the snowball effect, okay? And so, or what we call debt roll up, okay? So before, you're just applying $100. So before your payment was $2,857, but now just an extra $100, which means that instead of $2,857, you're paying $2,957 now. Okay, but if you do this and you do the snowball effect or debt roll up, instead of taking you 30 years to pay off your debt, now guess what? You're going to pay it off in 17 years. Is that pretty good? That's really good, right? What if you had $200 or $300 that you found? So now instead of 17 years, maybe you cut it down a lot less. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's talk about how much you would save. Current debt right now, before $400. Total monthly payment, it was $2,857. Time until you're debt free is 30 years. Total real debt. Real debt means that including the interest. Okay, so that means now it's $736,000, right? But now, guess what? Just with that $100, okay, then we're going to reduce it. It's still your current debt is $400,000. You did what? 17 years instead of 30 years. But now instead of paying $736,000, you only pay $601,000. That's a savings of what? $136,000. That's a big deal. Now, what if it was an extra $200 or an extra $300? So here, an extra $300, that means you pay your debt off in 15 years, okay? And instead of paying $400,000, you're only paying $576. That's a huge savings. Can that extra, almost what? $200,000, can that go towards your retirement? Yes. That extra $200,000 now can go towards your retirement. Does that make sense? So is this helpful? Can you guys do your homework and go home and look at that 26 list and see where you can save an extra $100, $200, or $300 that you can apply to debt roll-up? When you do this on your own, guess what? You're not utilizing a credit counseling company, so it doesn't affect your credit score. Does that make sense? Okay. So what's the difference in additional 100 or can save or $200 or $300? When you see the numbers, now it's a big deal. Okay. So write down your credit debt account, okay, and begin. But you can also scan the QR code, where now you can scan the QR code, take a picture of that, and it will give you a list where you see you can have all of it shows you. You just have to go home, input all of your debt, your balance, everything, and then your payments, and you can see how fast and how much you save. Okay, so these are calculators that you can utilize free of charge. All right, it's also in the workbook. All right, so you can scan that. Okay, now, true or false? Once a credit card is paid off, is it a good idea for you to close the account? False. Don't close it. It'll reduce your credit. Remember, when the credit card is paid off, now your debt to credit ratio increases. Does that make sense? So then it helps your credit score. We don't recommend you closing your credit line because why? The importance of establishing a credit score. A higher credit score means that it will help you in terms of better or lower interest rate, okay, when it comes to lending money, okay? So develop a long-term habit, build up credit and manage your finances and your responsibilities, all right? Now, let's talk about spending less and earning more. All right. What will change if you save more money? Anybody? What would change if you save more money? You have more money for retirement. You can retire sooner. How will your family feel if you accomplish or plan to become debt free? Your family will feel good, right? So who's going to work? Who are you going to work for every day? Are you working for your employer, the government, the bank, or your family? But a lot of us don't realize that we're actually working for who? The government, because why? We're paying taxes, or your bank, because why? They're making more money, or even what? Your employer or your credit card, your lending companies, right? So we want you to work for yourself and for your family, okay? Who would want to benefit the most from your hard-earned money? It's your family. So let's take a look at something, okay? Increase your cash flow. How? You can ask nicely to your boss, but even if you ask nicely, doesn't mean the guarantee. Nowadays, before, if you're lucky, you got a 2% raise. 2% is not gonna cut it this year because inflation is 7.5%. How about work overtime or work part-time or start a part-time business, okay? So today there are many opportunities. Just remember, never lose sight of your goals. We want you to increase your cash flow while you can, when you can. Because then now you can make sure that you're paying off your debt, saving for emergency fund, paying for your retirement, okay? Then find ways that you can consistently reevaluate your monthly expenses. You should do that at least once a year. It does take time, but you know what? Time is money. That's where you're gonna save a lot of money, okay? So you gotta reevaluate, okay? Can you, I can manage and also you can reevaluate your debt roll-up because maybe this year you can free up $100 and you can apply that to debt roll-up. But maybe next year you can free up maybe $200 or $400. Now, you see? So you see, when it comes to your expenses, your finances, you need to reevaluate yearly, okay? So that's why it's important for you to do it yearly. In addition to save more money, spend less, find ways you can earn more, okay? Also, imagine here, do you think that people understand your liabilities, that they would have less debt? If you understand liability, you would have less debt. If you know that fact that your APR is 19% or 30%, then you'll think twice about what? Spending. Does that make sense? Okay. Wouldn't living debt-free be less stressful? Exactly what Pastor Elijah said earlier, right? Also, a time when you had no debt or payment is much simpler. Okay. If you could, when I was younger, I was just dying to grow up. Okay. I was dying to get out of school, right? Because now I can become an adult. But then when I got my first job, I realized I want to go back. I didn't realize about taxes, debt, and all these other things. Does that make sense? So you see, if you could use your income for building financial freedom, how much better would your life look and feel with no financial liabilities? So we want you to take action, okay? Not only, what would it feel for you if you were debt free? We want you to take action. So this person talked about how going to our workshop, applying debt roll up. Now he freed up he is absolutely have zero debt, okay? And so it made a big difference, okay? So one of the greatest miracles is you can change your life by just changing the way you think. So that concludes my workshop, this second workshop. If you take a look in the second page of your workbook, you see there's 6 workshops. Second page of your workbook, there are 6 workshops, okay? So the first one is building wealth and savings, increasing cash flow, preparing for proper protection, building your health and wealth, understanding your asset accumulation and long-term goals. So we walk you from everything from your financial foundation, building your proper protection, debt management, emergency fund, and then investment. We walk you through that. All of your retirement plan is all in here. Okay. And so what you can do is you can get with, later on, you can ask Ezekiel how to get with us so that now you can attend our workshops Monday through Friday, 3 times a day, free. We offer it at 1 p.m. Okay, ladies, if you're at home, okay, it's about an hour. And then before you go pick up your kids, 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. All right, it's absolutely free. And you can attend the workshops multiple times so that now you can make sure that you're not only reading and understanding these financial concepts, but applying it, okay? Because application is more important, all right? Knowledge is power, but the application of the knowledge is much more powerful, all right? So that concludes my workshop. And for this workshop, I think we're gonna do Q&A right now, right? So we're gonna take a 5-minute, are we taking a 5-minute break? We're gonna take a 5-minute break and then we're gonna do question and answer. Thank you.
Amazing session. So officially we're on the question and answer. So if anyone have any question,
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right. Actually, we're gonna take a quick break. Actually, just so give our speakers and you all some brain break. How about that? So that's 5 minutes, and we'll come back. So that can give you time to, if you want to get your questions ready, we'll take it. Thank you.
Thank you.
to his mouth. We asked him, has anyone played this zombie before? No. Okay, good. Yay, it's all our first time. This guy has like a billion teeth. He's just like surrounded by teeth. What was that sound? Somebody just slice. Okay, let's jump through here. Let's hide in this giant door. Just let's play it. Right? You'd be like, ugh.
Right. So our break, it's gonna be up in the back. Well, it's actually officially out. So as a matter of fact, the question answer session is officially in session. Also, there will be all right. So just a quick modification. We will pause the question and answer just for a few minutes to give our mom in the house, Pastor Grace. She wants to say a few things for us. In the meantime, also, there will be a list going out for attendance list. So we need to fill it out. I'll be passing it around shortly.
Amen. Can you listen as you are collecting your food? You know, I'm so excited today. Though I was late, because I slept very, very late yesterday. I want to thank God for Pastor Elijah. Let's clap for Jesus. And Deacon Idowu, let's clap for Jesus. There was a time Pastor Elijah did a seminar and he said it will be foolish for you to have, are you listening to me? For you to have 10,000 in your savings and you are owing credit card of maybe 7,000, or he said it will be foolishness because the money the bank will give you in your savings is not up to the money the credit card will be collecting from you. Since that day, I apply wisdom. Then the second one is about this money saving, this insurance. So they called me into it 2005 or 2006. So I started giving them maybe $150, 200, and later on we increased to like 350. So when I clocked 60, 2019, we wanted to build a house. 2019, then I said, where are we going to get money? Then I remembered that, Elijah and Ido pushed me and my husband into this thing. So we went to them and said, can we cash out money? Brethren, we cash out 60,000. I cash out 35, my husband cash out 25. We started our building. If not that I came late, I can give them the picture of our building. It's one of the talk of the town at the redemption camp. Amen. That 60,000 took the building to the roofing and everything. Then I came back to Dikinido that, can I take more? He said, yes. I took 25,000 again. And brethren, this thing is very good. That's how we build our house without any pain or stress. I give glory to God for the life of these two people that God brought into my life when I came to Houston. Once again, I appreciate them. And I thank you very much for what you said. From now, I'm going to tell my husband, all this, hello, Simon. Sister Joyce, help me to send so money. Please go and add to your mortgage, this house mortgage. Go and put more to it. Thank you very much. Please key into it. Register today. Register today. God bless you.
All right, you can see this is a live testimonials we're hearing now. So very well, pays to save. So the question and answers now is fully set. If you have a question, signify. And you have
a question?
Okay, all right, all right, there you go.
To Elijah, and the second one goes to Ms. Kim. During the course of your teaching, you made mention how we need to get out of debt. And we know that most of us are already in debt. Most of us are already in there, swimming. In fact, we are drowning. So, how do we start? Okay, so how do we start? That's one. And number two, explain consolidation of debt. I know that when Ms. Kim was saying towards the ending of her listing, she said, if you go to them, your credit score would drop and things like that. What is the good and bad aspect of using consolidated debt? That's one question for you. And for you, when you were teaching, you made mention about tax now, tax relief, and tax advantage. Does it mean that tax advantage, we don't pay tax at all? I just want a little bit explanation on that. Yes, first.
Okay. Based on the first question, how do you get out of debt? I think I explained it. Because of time, I couldn't go in depth. Number one, if you don't have structure, you can never get out of debt. That's the gospel truth. To get out of debt, you must have that discipline to manage a structure. Let me give you an illustration because of our time. Let's assume you are earning $3,000 a month. Let me put it that way, which is averagely low, right? Based on the economic situation of the country now. Your total income, let's say your take home, your disposable income is $300, $3,000 a month. How do you get out of debt? You've known your income that every month you have access to $3,000, right? Do you know your expenses? So the second thing you need to do is to identify your critical expenses, which is your need. Your need, I've explained this, is things that without you can't survive. Accommodation, then you have to look at it critically. Where you are staying, is it a need or a want? I've seen people that are in problem, they're in debt, but they still go and rent house. Because I can't live in business. Somebody told me, I was discussing with somebody, And the person was telling me that his income is not, we finished the last one, and the person came to me, the last one we did. He said there's no way his income, once he pays rent, his income is finished. I said, how much is your rent? He said 1,008. How much is your income? I won't mention it. I said, you are stupid. No, it's a brother in this. I said, you are stupid. How can you, he said, once your rent is more than 30%, even your mortgage of your total income, you're in trouble. I said, better live where you are staying and go, and I said, there are places where your rent cannot more than 800. I know somebody, okay, I mentioned Curtis, when they first came. The house is, I think it's 2-bedroom or something. It's 850. And he lived there. They didn't shoot him one day. They didn't even, me where I left, they removed the car. They did his own tire. I'm just telling you, there are still some places, gated community in some area that are still cheap. I told the guy said, he can't live there. I said, you're not ready to start. So until you face that reality of, you have to break it down that you need accommodation. This is how much my income can afford. Do you get my point now? Not what you want, what you can afford, which is your need. You can afford even a studio, go to studio. Let me give you this to shock you. When I first came, I came with 2 children. I came with, my wife gave a birth here. I have to come and meet her. I have 2 children with myself and my wife. We were living in 1 bedroom for over a year, one, with 2 children. And I was general manager already of a multi-billion company before coming over to this place. I was living in 4 bedroom. The whole building was mine when I back home. So I can't say because I was living in 4 bedroom then and I come here, I want to live in 4 bedroom. I would die in debt. Get my point. The first thing is to break it down. Break all those excess spending. You have a surplus on your, what do you call it? Upgrade. Some people, they can't do that iPhone. There are some phones that they sell for $300, $400. Listen, this is how to deal with it. There's online. When I first, before my children complained for years, before I got them, like the first line I got for them when is Freedom Pop, which is free. It's free line. Only thing I have to buy is phone. The line is free, though the service is not everywhere. But they complain for more than 1 year. I told them, for now, I can't afford to give you phone with I pay for. I will buy you, the phone I bought was $50 from those people, but they gave me a line for free. And they use for 2 years. I use it for 1 year. Do you get my point? You have to face reality first. Once you're able to face it and base it on your income, you'll be able to have a savings. Do you get my point now? That savings now is to get out of debt first. Like I said, I forgot I even say when my pastor was mentioning it, because somebody asked that question there. If you are saving $10 every month and you are owing $10 to the credit card is charging you 18% and back is paying you nothing. That's stupidity. Do you get my point now? So once you have a savings out of your regular income, you are now on your way getting out of debt. But until you are able to scale your expenses below your income or increase your income above your expenses, you can't get out of debt. And I gave other illustration. If you cannot cut your expenses because you want to maintain your expenses, get more income. Second option, how do you get income? Uber is there, right? DoorDash is there. You don't need certification for those things. You can use your spare time to get more income. Some people watch TV for 4 or 5 hours. That hour you can use online to trade and make more income. You get my point now? So it's either you increase your income or you reduce your expenses or do both. If you are not ready to do both, you are not ready to get out of debt. The third option, like I gave of a brother, that when I didn't give that the 200,000 loan that they had for school because they wanted to go for full time. They live on loan throughout the school. Even their payments, their house rent, everything was on loan. They got loan to go for school. Both of them finished school, and today combined income is close to $400,000. Do you get my point now? So they knew what they were looking for when they were owing money. That is a good loan, right? But you are getting loan to buy car. You are getting loan to buy clothes. You are getting loan to buy jewelry. That is the stupidity of the highest order. I'm sorry to say, it's what the Bible says. Bible says it, I read it to you. It said the fool finish everything they earn. To consolidate, which is second part. Do you know you can do consolidation on your own without going to these people? What they tell you what you can do on your own. I've seen people that went to them and came back worse. Because they will still charge them. And unfortunately, the bank will still put it on your credit because they said don't pay. When you don't pay, they now consider it and now negotiate to drop. You can, I told you, ask for help. If you go to bank, listen, when somebody, I told you the loan of $100,000, I called my banks, I called them. I didn't know I could. They were the one that gave me the options. When I called them, these loans, I can't pay because what they asked me to pay every month was too high. Even by the time I pay, half my salary is gone. I said, I can't pay, what do I do? They said, okay, we look at your house, we can put some on your house. I said, good, let's do it. And now instead of credit card loan that would be going to about 17%, they were able to give me 3.9% on the house as a loan, as a not more equity line of credit. And before you know it, they are the one that work it out for me that everything was below 4%. And they move all into, they are the one that work it out. I did consolidation on my own, calling my bank because I've not destroyed my credits. Do you see it now? So you can consolidate on your own instead of destroying your credits and now want to consolidate and it's difficult for you to do. I now need help. So if you call your credit card company, you can negotiate your rates down. I'm telling you, it's by law. You can call them and renegotiate your loan. You can you can ask them for promotion that is available. Let me tell you, there was a time I was owing $30,000 in credit card. That was 2007, 8, 9. I moved, people, brother, who will testify. Then it was once, how did I do it? I said, I don't pay more than 3% per annum on 30,000 credit card. How did I do it? I move it around. I will go to Chase. By then, I will negotiate. They will give, okay, we have an offer. You can move it to us with 3% transfer fee for, I say, what of 18 months? They say, no, we can only give you 1 year. Okay, move it. I'm paying only 3%, they move it. We don't, I go back to Park America. I have this credit card. Can I move it to you? That's how I became friends with Wells Fargo. They gave me 18%, 18 months, no interest. I move it to them. And I was paying every month. And I paid $30,000 credit card off. Within 4 years, paying maximum of 3% per year as interest. That was a tough time, tough period for me when I was still struggling to survive. So you can do this thing yourself. You don't need a professional to help you consolidate. You just need to ask for help. But your help will not come if you have destroyed your credit score. That is why, you know why your credit score is important. That's why you should be very, very careful. They do not know you, but your credit score justifies your character. If you cannot manage your money, you can't manage our money. Simple. They don't know you, but before they give you additional loan or take over your loan, if you are ambassador where you are coming from, you won't pay their own too. So if you have late payment, late fee, not pay on time, all these things, they will say, no, we are sorry, we can't give you nothing. But if they see history of payments and you pay more than minimum every time, and they see consistency, but they know you and they see your income, they are most likely to work with you and to even bring the interest rate down. Did I answer your question, sir? God bless you.
So my question was the tax advantage, right? Okay. Oh, I think it's from that one. Okay, got it. So there's tax advantage products. Tax now products, you pay taxes at the end of the year. Tax later, you pay taxes when you withdraw, okay? So then tax advantage products means that the money, there's certain vehicles that you can, before the money goes in, you've already paid taxes. It's with after tax money. Then the money will grow tax deferred. And then when you take it out, you don't pay any taxes. Okay, so that's what tax advantage means. Tax advantage, a good example is like a Roth IRA. There's IRA, traditional IRA, and there's a Roth. A traditional, you get to deduct today, right? And so you get to deduct it today. It grows tax deferred, but now when you withdraw, you have to pay taxes. A Roth IRA is you pay taxes up front. Okay, you put the money in, the money grows tax deferred, and then it's tax free upon withdrawal if you withdraw after 59 and a half. Okay, so let me ask you a question. What would you pay taxes more on, the seed or the harvest? Which one would you pay more? I know he knows the answer, but what about everybody else? You pay more on the harvest. But a lot of people, they always look for trying to reduce tax today. Paying tax today is a seed. You have a handful of seed, okay? And this is all you have. So you pay taxes on this today, you spread that, okay? And then let it grow now. Then it becomes what? A big harvest, right? So then now, guess what? If it's like a tax deferred product, you don't pay today, harvest, but now you pay taxes when you harvest everything. So that's a lot. It's taxes, it's not interest on the taxes. You're paying taxes on principal plus gains. Where tax advantage, you're only paying taxes on the principal only. Okay, so a lot of times what people look at is only tax what's happening today. A lot of people see me and they're like, oh, I want to save money today. I want to save money today. Okay, but they don't realize that they have to pay taxes later on. It's going to be a lot more. Okay, and then real quick, based on what you were asking about, Pastor Elijah, about the debt, you remember I gave you that example, list all of your debt. Okay, most of us, people know they're drowning in debt, but they don't know how much they're drowning. So start by listing all of your debt and looking at your interest rate. When you look at your interest rate, the next time and it says 18% or 20%, the next time you go to swipe that credit card or tap that credit card, guess what? You're going to remember it's 20%. And so then you're going to think twice about it because you understand the Rule 72 now. You have to understand how to make your money work for you instead of working against you. All right. So I hope that at least that's a start. Then you can apply the debt roll up method, and you have the workbook. It's just scan. You have the calculator in the workbook. You can scan that, list all of your credit card, all of your debt, and if you're willing to remember, you can list all of your amount. Okay, but the problem is if you don't have an extra $100, $200 to pay it off, you can't do debt roll up. That's why we gave you that 26 ideas of going back and taking a look at what your expenses are and reevaluating them so that now you can try to find an extra $200 or $300 so that you can apply to debt roll up now. Okay, so knowing how much debt you have, but now where the money is so that you can have that extra money. Okay, or like Pastor Elijah said, get an extra job. If you just make an extra $500, that extra $500 could be used towards the paying off your debt. Okay, so that's something that you can start to do. All right, I hope that answered your question.
That's a very good questions and excellent answers from our experts. And we have another question here in the back.
Praise the Lord. My question is, yes, my question is 2 in 1. Number one, to start with, I know we have a campaign against credit cards. You know, how do you now tell an upcoming person who doesn't have a credit, let's say the children growing up, how do they build their credit, knowing fully well that anywhere they go, they will tell them, you don't have a credit, you don't have a credit. How do they build their credit? That's number one. Secondly, I believe that, I was made to understand that after a certain number of years, even if you have a derogatory something on your credit, after a certain number of years, precisely 7 years, it goes off. So if he's if after about 10 years, you still find it and they still talk about it on your credit, is it right or wrong? Or what do we do to fight that? Thank you. Any of you?
The first thing about credit card, let me tell you, I used to have up to 20 credit cards. You'll be surprised. You know why I don't cancel credit card? When I move credit card around, I have Bank of America about 4, Chase maybe about 5. Yeah, because not one time. If I use this one and move it, I just keep it there. I'm not using anymore. It's the new one I'm using. On their own, they can cut their amount down. That's not my business. There's no credit card I don't have. Let me just say that. Discover all this stuff. You know, how do I manage it? But when I first come, I gave you the example. I wanted to do my MBA in HBU, and they said I don't have credit, nobody to sign for me. I have to drop out of the class. Thank God I'm able to finish later. But how do you build it? Number one, if you are not financially, if you don't have stable structure that you can use, I would advise you not to take too many credit cards. It's difficult to manage. The best way to manage credit card is this, which I do. One, like my son has a car which he drives. There's only that card attached to the app is used to buy gas. Is only one card. That's the purpose of that one card. It uses to buy gas. End of the month, I know the closing date for that card is 28th of the month. So once I get my salary, because I marked out $300 for the boy, I just go to his $300 and pay off that card. So every month I'm using their card. Every month I'm paying it off. Instead of giving my son $300, I gave him a card to use. He has to call me before I use the card. That's for number one rule. I know how much he's using on the card. He cannot go beyond this $300. Do you get my point now? But I marked $300 out of my income for that boy. So when he finished using on the 28th, even before they close on 28th, I pay it off the $300. So end of the month is still zero. The credit card is still reading that he has history of credit card and history of payments, but never pay interest on it. Because every credit card has a grace period, yes or no? How many days is your grace period? 25 days. If you pay your credit card back within that 25 days, you pay no single interest. Interest kick in after the 25 days. And once that 25 days is over, they will calculate your interest backward to when you use your money. Not when when you use the money, they now backdate it and calculate the interest and slap it as additional to your how much you are owing them. Do you see it now? The best way to develop for the kids, all my children, they have cards that are attached to their name. I monitor it because I need to help them. They have debit card, which I open account for each of them. Even the one that just called Clock 13, I've gotten a debit card for him attached to my account. We call it college. This Chase do it a lot. You just have to put $20 there or $25. But they cannot use it without my permission. That's number one rule. Number two rule, I'm the one paying it, not them. So instead for me to give them cash, I'm building their credit while they are in school. And I'm teaching them how to spend and control their spending while they are in school. Because when the children get to college, you don't train them all these things, and they begin to see money, they think money is for spending. But if they are used to check and balances that they have to get back to you and get permission before even when they are used to know the reason why they have to spend before they spend, it becomes an habit you built in them, that they grow up knowing fully that you don't spend until there's a reason to spend. Do you get my point now? Individually, as an adult, you can do the same thing. Just make sure you do not spend the credit card until you have provision to pay it. And let me tell you, if you have credit card debts, which is the second one, and you move it like I said, please when I was moving my credit card all about, I was still having $1,000 paying to that credit card every month till I paid off. You get my point now? The only thing is that instead of paying the 17, 18%, I was negotiating 3% every year till I paid everything off. Do you get it now? So the time I pay it off, my credit score today is almost 830. No, it's 838, sorry. I checked the last time, 838 or 850. I'm just telling you. But then when I was owing debt, it was 600 and something. Do you get it? The more you are paying, the money is building it up. That's why I told people I could get 7 years loan for less than 2% now. Because they can see history of payment. The second question, if you default, is a problem. It will go out. When they say go out of your credit, it will not affect your credit score again. But it's still, if they pull your credit, they still show that you have defaulted sometimes ago. The only thing is that it's not reflecting in your credit score. It's not a basis. Listen, there are so many, recently now there's a law being passed that your medical bill, if you owe medical bill and you couldn't pay, should not affect your credit score again. How many people have read that? It's not that it will not show in your credit history, but it will not affect your credit score. We have to know the difference between the two. If you default, you go to bankruptcy or anything, it will still be stated in your history, but it will not reflect in your score. Do you see the difference between the two? When the lender want to loan you and they pull your credit, what they are looking at is how financially honest. Who used the word? Sir? Responsible, thank you. How financially responsible. They don't know how you are. You can only look at your history to know your responsibility, and that will now determine how much interest they give you. I tell people the reason I can get any loan with because they have seen over 17 years I've been in this country, they have seen consistency in payment. No single late payment ever. No default ever. Even when I was owing close to $100,000, no single default. Get my point now? Because it will go out after 7 years, that is to not have reflecting your credit score again. But your history, they pull everything. It will show that in 2006, you defaulted. You get it now? Only when it affects your credit score that you can fight it. But it's just like a statement. It's like a message. You can't fight it.
No? Okay, all right. So your first question about young kids. Okay, unfortunately in the US, you're nobody until you owe somebody. How do you build credit? You gotta owe somebody, right? That's the only way you build credit, okay? So let me give you an example I did with my 18-year-old nephew. When he was 18, I gave him the Saving Your Future book and I made him read it. Tell me you read it? I said, okay, now you have to come to my workshop. I'm sorry, but I think I give a pretty good workshop. He's the only one, that was when we were doing our workshop in class. He's the only one that came to my workshop and fell asleep. Because he's my nephew, okay? He looks at me totally different. So guess what? He fell asleep. And every time he fell asleep, I made him come back. I made him come back multiple times. You know, when he was 2020, January, I sat him down and I said, you're about to graduate. I want to take a look at and do your personal financial strategy. He had zero debt, okay? Zero debt. He was putting 50% into his retirement plan from his paycheck. And he had over $15,000 in emergency fund set up. And he was 22 years old. So you see, you still have to teach your kids about this education. We give this workshop free. So not only you can join the workshop, but now your kids can. I also do free, like this coming Thursday, I'm gonna do the workshop actually in high school because I'm doing it for free. We are trying to educate 30 by 30. So when he was 18, I sat him down, we got him a $500 credit card, okay? And I said, the max that you can spend on that is $150. But this is what you have to pay off every single month. If you spend 150, you have to pay 150. Okay. And so that's what we started doing to build up his credit. But it's unfortunately, that's the only way to build up credit. But you have to teach them how to handle credit the right way at a young age. If you don't teach them at a young age, they're gonna make the same repeated mistakes. And like I said, I made my nephew go to my workshop multiple times. I mean, literally, just because it's harder when it's family. Okay. And so he went, but then when he was about to graduate, I did his financial checkup. He was really grateful. And he was like, he realized that he was in a much better situation than his friends were. So yeah, it's hard when it's your kids. It's hard when it's your family, but you got to do what you got to do. Okay. So I hope that answered your question. Anyone else?
Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to our speakers. Thank you, Pastor Elijah. Thank you so much, Ms. Kim. This is the end, but not the end. I know we've like overshot the time that was assigned to this program. We're actually supposed to end at 12. We're almost at 12:45. The speakers will be here right after. We're going to have the closing prayer. The speakers will be here around for those of you that still have additional questions. They'll still be around. Miss Kimmy will be here. Pastor Elijah, I'm not sure how long you'll be staying, but I mean, they'll be here for additional questions. But officially, we want to close this out for those that want to leave now. So I'm just going to call on the president of the Women of Substance, Mami Awofodo, to give us a closing prayer. Okay. And we do have gifts for our speakers. Thank you so much. This was, I mean, a wonderful opportunity to be a part of this. Let's give them a round of applause, please. They've done a very, very good job. A very good one. Thank you so much. Okay. Thanks. Mommy, thank you. And thank you to all that were able to make it. I mean, thanks for your time. It's not easy to expend almost 4 hours of your Saturday morning. Thank you so much.
Let us pray. Our Father and our Lord, we thank you. We bless your holy name because without you, we can't do anything. Thank you for the opportunity given to us today to put this together. As we have learned that anyone that owes is a servant to the lender. I pray the Lord Almighty will help us to be able to use this. We will not be hearers alone. We use it for our life. Because when we have a less stressful life, we'll be able to serve you better. Father, we thank you for the speakers that you have used to us today. Thank you for the knowledge. And I pray you implant more knowledge into their lives in the name of Jesus. And all of us together, we want to raise billionaires, millionaires among us. It is not too late for us to be debt-free. I pray you will help us, oh Lord. You are the only one that can help us. Thus far, you have been with us. You have promised you will never leave. You will never forsake us. Continue to use the knowledge to be able to implant into our lives so that our life will be better. Thank you for all the speakers. Once again, we bless your holy name. And for all of us, as we go, Holy Spirit, lead us to the way. We will never regret of ever coming here to do this in Jesus' name. And thank you for all that has put this together, the women and the men of the church. Will continue to be with us. We build more knowledge, understanding in the name of Jesus. Thank you for this church. We will move forward and the gate of hell will not prevail against us. Thank you for today. We bless you for tomorrow. We bless you for future conferences, and your name alone will be glorified. It will be all to your glory. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed. Let us say the grace together. In the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the sweet fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen. Surely his goodness and mercy are following us all the days of our lives. I will continue to bless in the name of the Lord forever and ever. Amen. At the pavilion of redemption, our goal is to aspire for excellence.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ma. God bless you.
Somebody, when you have either mortgage, car notes, or any kind of debt, the best is to pay above minimum. Whatever you pay above minimum goes to your principal. And that one reduce the number of years and it gains you back. Let me look at it this way. If your interest rate is 10% on your, or less 7% of credit card, if you are paying minimum, they are charging 17% on whatever remain, right? If you pay extra $500, you have not only paid $500, you have saved 17%. Are you looking at from that side? The same thing your mortgage. Your mortgage is 1,002. If you pay 1,500 and your mortgage rate is 6% or 5%, the 300 extra you pay, you have saved yourself not only years, you have saved yourself interest rates on that $300. Because the problem with the interest rate is this: any amount that remain, the interest rate is compounded on whatever balance. So the more you reduce the principal, so instead of compounding the balance, you are reducing the balance. So you are not only paying 300, 200, you are still saving. At the end of the year, you're supposed to have paid, let's say, 200,000 in total back. You may have paid, even if you have paid, if you pay minimum and you pay 300, by the time you pay extra, you may have saved not only what to pay, you might have saved like $10,000, $15,000 into your pocket. Do you get it now? So the best thing is never pay minimum on anything. Pay above minimum. Why? It increases your credit score, because anytime they see that you pay off your loan before the end of the time, it shows you are very, very responsible. You have excess. It might be $10 extra. But when you stick to minimum, it shows you barely survive. They don't know you, but they can read your history from your credit score, and they can use that one to judge you. Your character to the financial world is your credit score. They don't know you, but they can see this person is responsible. Yeah, this one is not responsible. They judge you because they see your record. Be careful. God will help us in Jesus' name.
My question is about credit card. I have a credit card that I paid off because you said last time that we should not close the credit card, but it's zero over a year. They still charging me $3 every month. So, and I called them, I discussed with them, the rate, I told them, can we get a lower rate? They said, no, it's already fixed until they die. So I want to know, I'm not using it, I have it at home, but every month I have $3 to my bill. I have to pay. Everything is off, it's zero. $3 every month. I can close it. Yes, it's not gonna affect my Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
I think that's it, right?
I have another question. I think there's one of the questions on from some of our viewers on Zoom, and I think this actually goes towards Miss Kimi or Dikinido, basically on insurance. They're asking, how long does it take? So someone via Zoom, because we do have people, they're asking how long does it take when you put in money, just like the example that Mommy Grace gave, how long does it take for you to pull out funds when you've invested?
Okay, so that's, it depends. It depends on how much you put in. Okay, so that's number one, it depends on how much you put in, okay? And then also it depends on what kind of product it is, because it depends on the interest it's earning, okay? But typically, I would say at least give anything 10 years. Give anything 10 years. Yeah. Uh-huh. So she started 2006, she's put out 2020. Yeah, so that's 14 years. It needs time to grow, because once you pull that money out, it's now not growing anymore. So that's the reason why I said at least 10 years. Okay. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so Brother Chosen, I think 10 years minimum. Thank you. Do we have any other questions? I mean, they're still on, yes. Okay, so minimum 10 years. That's when you can pull out your funds. Thank you so much.